This beautiful girl with golden hair, wearing this gorgeous red dress, is the enchantress Leysa, the queen of the underworld and the most beautiful flower. Everywhere she steps, a captivating fragrance lingers. Her eyes, red like roses, earned her the title of enchantress for a reason. Her nature is incredibly cruel. Leysa is ruthless, sharp as a rose thorn, and anything that displeases her is annihilated. Everyone in the underworld is uncomfortable with her, but they can only bow their heads before Leysa's beauty and power. Such an important person to the emperor suddenly disappeared one day. Numerous rumors arose regarding her sudden disappearance. Imprisoned in the underground dungeon of the Holy See by the heretic inquisitor, devoured by the carnivorous creatures she herself raised. They only theorized. No one knew the truth behind it. Even if they knew the truth, they wouldn't believe it, because Leysa herself couldn't believe her eyes. In a small house somewhere, Leysa, in the form of a little girl, touched her face and said, "I can't believe it's come to this." She thought to herself, the most beautiful woman in the world, the infamous villainess who lived only to satisfy her own vanity. I, the main character in every major incident and spectacular event, have become a 5-year-old child. She screamed in frustration. What the hell is going on? She thought, there's a complicated story behind how I ended up in this situation. A month ago, at her original residence, Leysa asked in surprise, "What? The Basilian Count family secretly adopted child?" A young man placed his hand on a box and replied, "Yes, I confirmed it." The head of the Basilian family personally concealed their identity and visited each orphanage. This young man with the familiar, cute, cheesy fangs is Hada, Leysa's subordinate and informant. After a pause, Hada added with excitement, "So, Hada has a good plan for you." Although not expecting much, Leysa still asked, "What is it?" He immediately said, "Disguise yourself as an orphanage director and approach the count." Upon hearing this, Leysa immediately rejected it. "No, a temporary approach won't allow me to gather the information I want." Hada immediately asked dejectedly, "Then what should we do? Is there a better way?" Leysa stood up and said, "Yes, I will directly transform into a child and become the adopted daughter of the Count family." Hada was startled, clutching his face anxiously and saying, "That's too dangerous, Lady Leysa." She calmly replied, "It's not like I haven't faced danger once or twice. The Basilian Count family is known for its loyalty and secrecy. It's better for me to go on myself." As if afraid Hada was still worried, she turned around and gave a confident smile, saying, "There's nothing I can't do, right? I've finally found a trace of those who ruined my life." She thought, "The only reason I'm taking such a risk is to get revenge on those who destroyed my happiness. My mother was a mad fairy who left this world after giving birth to me. I inherited power from such a mother and was abandoned in the fairy world as soon as I was born. The secret of my birth, I know nothing about it. 5 years ago, on my 15th birthday, Leysa, after the cake was brought out, everyone shouted, 'Happy birthday!' Until then, I had no idea I was a fairy." Flushed with joy and happiness, Leysa's face turned red as she exclaimed, "Oh." Then she asked, "Our orphanage doesn't have much money. Where did you get this cake, headmistress?" The headmistress, somewhat evasively, asked back, "Why are you worrying about that, you silly girl?" Leysa thought to herself, "I've lived such happy days at this orphanage." Just then, the headmistress stroked her head and said, "Thank you for being born and being with us, Leysa." She looked up touched and called out, "Headmistress." In her heart, she thought, "I don't have parents, but in return, I have a loving headmistress and my friends." However, amidst the cheerful atmosphere, a butterfly suddenly flew into Leysa's throat. Her eyes widened, and she let out a gasp, Then her throat emitted a light, and everything changed after I awakened my fairy powers. Seeing her cry out in pain, the headmistress anxiously yelled, "Leysa." Outside the orphanage, a red-haired man said, "Found her." It seems the information was true. A nearby black-haired man added, "The price for a newly awakened fairy is quite good." "Let the hunt begin," they said, throwing down the torches in their hands. The flames immediately erupted. In the human world, mystical beings like fairies are merely commodities. The hunters seeking that power attacked the orphanage, and I was the only survivor. Leysa sat before the orphanage, engulfed in flames. "No, it's all my fault. I'm the one who caused everyone to die. Me, if I weren't a fairy, everyone would have. And just like that, I lost everything. My life was filled with pain and despair, hunted by fairy hunters. There was nowhere that welcomed me. To survive, power was what I needed. In the end, that's what I chose." In an alleyway, Leysa held an axe, wearing a glamorous red dress. Her lips curved into a smile as she stepped forward. Before her, a terrified hunter stammered, That's all the information I know about hunting fairies. I've told you everything. Please spare my life." What she chose was to use her fairy powers for revenge. Then, the axe head in her hand flew out, embedding itself in the ground beside the hunter. Leysa calmly walked over, picked up the axe, and said, "Now that you've told me everything, get lost." After mastering my powers, I began searching for the culprits who ruined my life. The fairy hunters were just puppets. Clearly, there were others pulling the strings. I won't spare any of them. For that reason, I chose to become a villainess. After years of pursuit, I discovered that my mother's madness was a result of a fairy experiment. Because I inherited that bloodline, my powers are different from ordinary fairies. And there are rumors that one of the 3 great noble families of the Palan Empire conducted cruel experiments on fairies. But I couldn't touch the nobles, so I found another way. Finally, my chance arrived. Leysa sat down, steepling her fingers, and mused. So was Basilian. After all, she thought, one of the 3 great noble families of the Palan Empire, said to be the most secretive, as there's very little information about them. Despite being a great noble family, no one knows the face of Count Basilian. All members of the family rarely participate in outside activities. People only know that the Count has passed away a few years. The predecessor and successor among the 3 sons have been determined. Such a secretive family is where my suspicions lie. Despite having 3 sons, they still choose to adopt. Thinking about this, she propped her chin on her hand and said, "And not from another noble family, but from an orphanage. Something isn't right." She continued to ponder. They could be adopting children for some sort of experiment. While she was thinking, Hada spoke up, "But it's too risky." "I object, Miss Leysa. The information we have is extremely limited. We don't know what dangers await you." Leysa smiled and asked, "You haven't forgotten your promise, have you?" Hot sighed in resignation. I know. I'll prepare the potion to make you younger, Mississippi." Leysa chuckled, not forgetting to remind him, "Remember, 10 years old. Making me too young will make it difficult to gather information." She added, "The Count personally went to the orphanage, correct?" Hada replied, "Yes, certainly." Leysa fell back into thought. In that case, infiltrating the Basilian Count family is a good plan, but back in the present, looking at her childlike appearance in the mirror, she thought angrily, this is insane. She had been reduced to the age of 5 and was using the alias Cheza. She thought to herself, I don't know if there was a problem with the potion or what, but I've become a child who can't even speak clearly. Moreover, it's been a month since I came to this orphanage, and I still haven't heard anything about Count Basilian. Looking at the mess and hearing the shouting behind her, she muttered, more than anything, I've reached my limit living in this chaotic place. The orphanage I lived in as a child was very clean, and they cared about our meals. But this place doesn't care about the children beyond the money they receive. On top of that, these brats are too much trouble. She recalled the scene of the other children ganging up on her and stealing her bread. "It's mine," they yelled, and then scolded her, "Hey, you little rut." Leysa, now Cheza, could only cry in frustration. It's been a month. When are they finally coming? Suddenly, someone shouted, "Hey, get outside quickly. A noble is here." There's a huge, awesome carriage too. Cheza's eyes immediately lit up. Not a noble. She stood up thinking, could it be? Could it be? As soon as she left the room, her eyes widened. There, fine horses, a luxurious carriage, and dignified servants. So that man is the head of the Basilian family, Count Kian Basilian. Then a smartly dressed man stepped inside. Seeing him, Cheza immediately affirmed, there's no mistaking it. That person is definitely Count Kian Basilian. Count Basilian, Kian, spoke in a cold voice, I'm here to adopt a child. Hearing these words, her face brightened with anticipation. One of the 3 great nobles of the Balan Empire, she thought to herself. Meanwhile, the orphanage director said with a smile, "Oh, of course. Please come in and have some tea." Cheza continued to think the wait was worth it. He seems difficult. Kian's expression remained impassive. He replied coldly, "No, it's a waste of time." He glanced over the frightened children with his blood-red eyes. He continued, "I'll look right here." Cheza hid behind the cowering children and thought, finally, at any cost, I have to get the Count's attention. If you're just going to stand here trembling, get out of the way. Thinking this, she tried to push her way through the crowd of children. He seems so impatient. At this rate, he won't even see me. Just as she thought this, Kian suddenly spoke. I've looked around, and there's no child I want. I'm leaving. With that, he turned to go. The orphanage director hurriedly said, Yes, please wait a moment." As Kian was about to exit, Cheza's voice rang out, "Wait." She held up her piece of dark bread and shouted, "Dad." Inwardly, she thought, no, I can't let him leave like this. I've been waiting for you for a whole month. She dangled the bread to attract his attention and said, Dad, I'm here. Take me with you. She took a few small steps forward, and only then did Kian ask, why should I take you with me? Chesa patted the piece of bread she'd been saving for this moment. Then she threw it away and asked, honestly, can't you see? Because I'm adorable. Hearing her say this, even someone as cold as Kian was momentarily stunned. Meanwhile, Chesa thought to herself, this is the only way to be chosen. The Count is intentionally emitting killing intent. He must be looking for a child who can withstand it. Meaning, the Count needs a child who isn't afraid. She put her hands on her hips, staring at Kian and wondering, so, is this enough to take me with you? After a few seconds, he suddenly chuckled and asked, what's your name? She struggled to control her shrunken tongue and said, Chesa. My name is Chesa. Suddenly, Kian emitted a strong wave of killing intent and asked, like this. Chesa's face went blank as she thought. What does he mean? After a few seconds, Kian suddenly picked her up and said, all right, I'll take this child with me. He smiled for the first time and said, from now on, I'm your father, Chesa. Seeing this, her face darkened as she wondered, what's with this sudden change in attitude? But outwardly, she replied, yes, father. I'm sure it'll be all right, right? After she and Kian boarded the carriage and left, the other children were still trembling in fear. The orphanage director bowed at a 90-degree angle and said, please have a safe trip. The wheels rolled away as Chesa's thoughts raced. Ugh, it's so uncomfortable sitting on someone's lap like this. Seeing her fidgeting, Kian asked, are you restless? Still not used to your father, Chesa? She shook her head and replied, no. Kian didn't ask any further questions. He reached into a box beside him and said, I have something for you, Chesa. She couldn't help but wonder, what is it? He doesn't seem like the thoughtful type. Then suddenly, Kian pulled out 2 bracelets that looked like handcuffs and put them on her. Here, a gift for you. Chesa's face went blank for a second time. Inwardly, she screamed, aren't these magic-suppressing bracelets? Of course, how could he accept me so easily? He wants to confirm whether I've really turned into a child, doesn't he? But once I've taken the potion Hada made, it's not easy to detect. The power of a mystical creature like a beast person is different from magic. Therefore, Chesa put on a bright smile and said, thank you, they're beautiful. But she felt their weight and thought, I'll use this to my advantage. How does it feel to be a scoundrel who puts magic-suppressing bracelets on an obedient child? Perhaps she was right. Kian's face also went blank for a few seconds. Then he took the bracelets off and said, these aren't right. I must have been mistaken. I'll get you better ones later. The 2 bracelets were removed, and Chesa silently breathed a sigh of relief, having overcome one hurdle for now. Kian suddenly said, Chesa, if you want anything, tell me anytime. She asked suspiciously, anything I want? He tilted his head, giving a mysterious smile. I'll give you everything. In return, I also have something I need Chesa to do for me. He lifted her face and said, just one thing. Just do as I say. Easy, right? Chesa broke out in a cold sweat, thinking, asterisk, what is this ominous feeling? There's definitely a purpose behind his adoption of me. Asterisk, asterisk. Indeed, the one experimenting on the ancient race is Count Basilian. Asterisk, the carriage traveled a little further before it was abruptly stopped. Someone said, excuse me, we'll just be conducting a brief inspection. Chesa looked out the window and, seeing the 2 knights outside, frowned, thinking, asterisk, holy knights? Why a sudden inspection? Asterisk, Kian asked, is something the matter? The female holy knight hesitated. Well, we're searching for the villainous Leysa. Chesa froze, thinking, asterisk, me? Well, I suppose I have been hiding for a month. Considering the trouble I've caused, being wanted is only natural. But isn't inspecting commoners a bit much? Asterisk, Kian mused. Now that you mention it, Leysa has been rather quiet lately. Hearing this, Chesa was startled. Asterisk, does Kian know about me? Asterisk, asterisk, it seems he's aware of my actions. The underworld is a gathering place for those abandoned by society. Why would Kian pay attention to someone from the underworld like me? Asterisk, after exchanging pleasantries, the 2 holy knights requested, it's quite rude of us, but please allow us to verify your identities. Kian arrogantly replied, I'd rather not. The female holy knight added, until your identities are confirmed, we cannot let you pass. Please step out of the carriage. Kian remained defiant. I won't, he said in a low voice, because I wish to keep the matter of my adopting a daughter private. So, everyone forget everything. While speaking, he released a wave of magic power to activate a spell. The moment she felt the magic, Chesa couldn't help but think in surprise, asterisk this magic power, asterisk before her eyes. The faces of the 2 holy knights suddenly became vacant. Their eyes glazed over as if they'd lost their souls. They said, yes, I understand. Seeing this, Chesa immediately realized asterisk it's dark magic. Asterisk, she was was utterly shocked. Asterisk, dark magic is forbidden in the Empire, yet Basilian, one of the great nobles, is a dark magic user. When the world is going on. Asterisk, after dealing with the two knights, Qin turned back and changed his demeanor, saying, I apologize for letting you see that, Cheza. If they hadn't bothered us, I would have let it go. Now that things have come to this, let's get out of here. With that, he snapped his fingers. A dark magical aura enveloped the carriage. When the light reappeared, Cheza stood up, shielding her eyes with her hand as she looked up, thinking, asterisk, in the blink of an eye, we're somewhere else. This is also dark magic, isn't it? Since he's been exposed as a dark magic user, he's not even bothering to hide it anymore. So this place, asterisk, is the Basilian Count's mansion, under the gloomy atmosphere. Within the eerie mansion, asterisk, Qin smiled and said, welcome to the Serpent's Castle, my daughter. In the dark of night, a mysterious man was running desperately, as if trying to escape some danger. Following him was a chain imbued with magical power. In a split second, he was bound by the chain. Amidst his groans, from the darkness, a man in white robes, bound by chains, stepped out. Unable to move, the man raised his head, his face pale, his voice stuttering. Why you? Heretic Inquisitor. Yes, the one carrying out your arrest today is Halen, the heretic inquisitor of the holy nation of Hinder. He spoke coldly. Once you've come into contact with forbidden power, you must have been prepared for this, haven't you? As soon as the words were spoken, a scream echoed through the night forest. Halen immediately had the man taken away. Holy knights suddenly rushed in, saying in unison, Lord Halen. He then asked, what about the witch? The brown-haired holy knight replied tensely, not yet. Despite our investigation, we haven't obtained any information. Halen, after hearing this, wondered, no information? The image of Leysa with blood-red eyes flashed in his mind. Halen, you are my prey. She then placed a gentle kiss on his chest and said, so, don't waste your life. Back in the present, Halen looked up at the night sky and exclaimed, where have you disappeared to, Leysa? At the same time, Leysa, still disguised as Cheza, was being tucked into bed, feeling extremely irritated. Qin lay on his side, facing her, his voice sweet. I'll sing you a lullaby tonight, too, Cheza. Although annoyed, Cheza obediently replied yes. In her mind, she thought, I'm going crazy. It's been a week since she arrived at the Count's mansion. Why is Qin constantly clinging to her? She recalled moments of Qin cheerfully trailing behind her, and the time he picked her up while she was playing with toys. Come on, Cheza, let's go to the study. She had wondered silently, what's the point of bringing me along? Being by Qin's side 24/7 made Cheza think irritably. Asterisk, I want to get out of this body as soon as possible. Because of him, I can't do anything, let alone investigate. Asterisk. Could it be that he's realized my identity and is toying with me? Asterisk, like when reading a book, the wolf sees the delicious Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood cries out, hey, stop. Asterisk, Qin had also asked her, interesting, isn't it, Cheza? Thinking of this, Cheza glanced at Qin's beatific face as he held her while she slept and thought, even so, he's definitely hiding something. Because Qin is a dark magician in a continent where religion holds immense influence, dark magic is strictly controlled by the holy nation of Hinder. The great empire is also under the strong influence of the holy nation. Any dark magician who uses power against the will of God will receive the death penalty as soon as they are discovered. Even if it's Qin, a master with the ability to control minds. When their life is threatened, a normal person wouldn't have a reason to use dark magic. I had to find out what he's plotting. Qin looked at her affectionately. Are you still awake, Cheza? How about I sing you a lullaby? Cheza quickly turned over, thinking, asterisk, just reveal your true intentions already. Why bother acting like a father? Asterisk suddenly, as singing started, the melody incredibly off-key, torturing her ears. She screamed internally. Asterisk, he's actually singing. It's so bad. If you're going to sing, at least sing well. You tone-deaf idiot. Asterisk. By now, Cheza was starting to feel drowsy, secretly wishing, if only this were my mother's lullaby. I have no memories of the time before I was taken to the orphanage. This chaotic rhythm couldn't possibly be a lullaby, but somehow my eyes slowly. The next morning, Qin's voice rang out. Did you sleep well, Cheza? I jolted awake from my dream. I wondered, what did I fall asleep? Damn it, being in this tiny body means my stamina is the same too. Qin stood on the balcony, excitedly saying, there's something really interesting going on outside. Then he picked me up. Look, he said, your brothers are back. Looking down, I saw 3 people entering the castle, exuding a distinctly different aura. I thought to myself, those are the 3 Basilian brothers. I know very little about these 3 brothers. The eldest is 13 years old this year, and I just learned that the twins younger than him are 11. Qin said enthusiastically, well then, let's go to work, Cheza. I replied reluctantly yes. Inwardly, I questioned, why does he keep bringing me to work? I need some alone time. Entering Karen's office, he quickly placed me on his desk and said, stay here. Then he sheathed his sword and instructed, I have to go out for a bit today, Chesa. Can you stay by yourself? I froze for a moment. Then I gave a sweet smile. Yes. My heart was filled with joy. Finally, some alone time. Karen called out, come in. The door to his office slowly opened. He entered with a stern expression. Upon seeing him, Karen said excitedly, welcome back, Benzian. This person was the eldest son of the Basilian family, Benzian Basilian. Kian then asked, nothing out of the ordinary. At first, Benzian seemed surprised to see me there, but he quickly frowned. He said, it seems it's time for father to visit the Black Forest. Hearing this, Karen replied, indeed. Even if you hadn't said anything, I was planning to. I noticed Benzian's strange behavior and wondered, why does he keep staring at me? And what about the Black Forest? The Black Forest is rumored to be a place where sunlight can't penetrate during the day, where monsters survive, and where strange things happen. Although no one enters or leaves, the fact that the serpent's fortress lies within the Black Forest adds to the Basilian family's mystique. Why would Kian go to such a place? Then, Benzian turned to leave. Then, I'll excuse myself. Kian suddenly leaned in and asked, she looks a lot like her, doesn't she? Benzian stopped abruptly. He said irritably, if you want to go crazy by yourself. Don't drag innocent people into this. I thought the atmosphere is so tense. Are they really father and son? Kian gave a bright smile. Are you surprised because your older brother is a bit cold? I feigned innocence that it's okay. He patted my head and said, all right, I'll be back. Even if it's late, I'll be back by tomorrow morning. Go to sleep. I obediently replied yes. As I watched Kian leave, a thought suddenly popped into my head. Then I asked, Father, but who do I resemble? I thought to myself, anyone who heard that would find it suspicious. Kian looked at me for a long moment without saying a word. Well, this made Chesa recall something. This is the second time Kian has said I resemble someone. He said it once something like, at the orphanage. And the second time was very similar, right? And it was in front of Benzian. Speaking of which, Leysa has been rather quiet lately. He even directly mentioned my name. Perhaps adopting me, a fairy, wasn't a coincidence. What is your purpose, Kian? Chesa cheerfully asked, who do I resemble? Kian suddenly fell silent for a long time. After a while, he finally said, I'll tell you when I get back. In return, you have to wait obediently for me. And then he quickly walked away. Before leaving the room, he excitedly said, see you later. Chesa waved her hand, saying yes. As soon as Kian left, Chesa's expression changed. She thought, there's definitely something going on. Do you think I don't know? Obediently wait? Fat chance. She suddenly held out her small hand and began to cast a spell, feeling incredibly excited. Today will be the day I turn this count's mansion upside down. Thinking that, her mood became even more gleeful, and she laughed. Once I've gathered all the information, I'll say bye-bye to this place. Suddenly, Chesa stopped. She thought, someone's here. Out of nowhere, a masked man appeared and covered her mouth. He threatened her, you'd better come quietly. Make a sound and you'll die right here. Chesa, upon hearing this, became extremely annoyed. She screamed at her head, why now? He took her down to the lower levels of the castle, where an accomplice was waiting. Upon seeing him, the accomplice said, faster than I thought. The man who kidnapped her said, damn it, let's get out of this creepy place quickly. His accomplice suddenly asked, the target is still intact, right? The kidnapper immediately replied, of course. Why did Basilian want us to kidnap this brat anyway? His accomplice quickly raised a question. I heard they were searching everywhere for her. I thought she'd be special, but she looks pretty ordinary. Chesa, placed on a cart full of flowers, thought boredly, these two aren't anything special. Might as well just kill them. The kidnapper's accomplice suddenly asked, but doesn't she look like someone? The kidnapper replied, yeah, I feel like I've seen her somewhere before. Red eyes, blonde hair. Man, I feel like I'm about to remember, but I can't. Then, the kidnapper's accomplice suddenly exclaimed after staring at her. The witch Leysa? Chesa was a little surprised. She thought to herself, what? More perceptive than I thought. Since I've been everywhere, even though I've turned into a child, some people still recognize me. As expected, I can't let these two live. Then, under the cover of the flowers, her hands began to create sparkling lights. She was silently saying, eternal, when suddenly a voice called out, hey, you guys over there. What are you doing? Not far away, one of Chesa's brothers stood there with a smiling face, holding an umbrella over his head. He tilted his head cheerfully and said, it's the first time I've seen you guys. This person was the third son of the Basilian family, Ijuan Basilian. Seeing this, the kidnapper quickly lied. Young master, we're just delivering flowers. His accomplice chimed in, yes, we were just about to leave. Chesa thought, that child is the third son of this house. The kidnapper asked, does anyone need anything? However, Ijuan had already walked past both of them. Seeing this, the accomplice exclaimed, over there. Ijuan coldly ordered, shut up. He approached Chesa and said, this isn't a flower delivery. This is my family's new little sister, and besides, he moved his face a little closer to hers and feigned surprise. pretty, aren't you? First time I've seen someone as beautiful as me. Cheza glared at him and wondered, is he narcissistic? Aijuan pinched her cheek painfully. Amazing, kidnapped, and not even crying. Are you stupid? Cheza cursed him under her breath. This bastard. Seeing that Aijuan was paying no attention to the two kidnappers behind them, one of them suddenly said, hey, as if in silent agreement. The two immediately drew their weapons and charged that you'll both die. Then flower boxes suddenly flew into the air, followed by screams of ah. The kidnappers were now on the defensive, sweat pouring down their faces. Aijuan calmly said, I was waiting for this kid to cry for help. But if you want to die so badly, I can't help it. Farewell. As he said this, a magic rope appeared in his hand. The other end was tightly wrapped around the kidnappers' necks. And then their screams vanished, replaced by an unending shower of blood. Aijuan politely held an umbrella over Cheza. He wondered, still not crying, huh? When are you going to cry, little sister? His hand gently rested on Cheza's cheek. She thought to herself, seriously, this whole family is crazy. Crazy. The overhead light was on, and Benjen was diligently writing on a piece of paper. There was a knock at the door, and he said, come in. Aijuan entered with Cheza, cheerfully calling, brother. He quickly held her up like a doll for him to see. Have you ever seen anything this cute? Benjen asked, what do you mean? Aijuan pointed at Cheza's face excitedly and said, I want this. Benjen didn't seem very interested. He replied indifferently, you found it and brought it back? Why are you doing something so pointless? Cheza wondered, what? This kid knows I was kidnapped. I wasn't expecting much from this family, but this is too heartless. Aijuan poked her cheek with his finger. Isn't it better to have something this cute and beautiful in our house? She's not even scared. She's perfect for the Basilian family, right? Cheza was truly indignant and cried out, ugh, but she held it back, only asking herself, do you want to die? Benjen calmly replied, the problem isn't adopting a daughter. Aijuan said, I know, but it's also interesting. Benjen glared at him, his voice stern. The Count's eccentricity. Are you planning to join in? Aijuan replied enthusiastically, I didn't think about it that much. Suddenly, he placed his hand on Cheza's head, but having a little sister like this isn't bad. Cheza scowled internally. Who are you talking about? Benjen looked at her with disdain. He said, you're crazy too. Kid, I'll help you get out of this mansion. Cheza thought in surprise what? She spoke shyly, making baby noises that translated to, I like it here. In her head, she frantically thought, what am I saying? How can I leave before I even begin? Benjen was surprised. You like it here? What? Cheza stammered because she was flustered in her head. I haven't even thought about it. So, using all her cuteness, she said, I like it here with father. But inwardly, she thought, just make up any excuse. Benjen asked suspiciously, what's this now? Is this kid crazy too? Aijuan quickly sided with him. Exactly. She likes it here with father? She's cute, but she's got something wrong with her head. Cheza thought irritably. Asterisk, just leave me alone. He's their father. Asterisk Benjen clasped his hands together. You don't know what will happen to you here. Is that what you mean? Aijuan added, you know about the Count's plan, right? Aijuan replied, yes. Reviving the dead, that disgusting act. Hearing this, a look of confusion spread across Cheza's face. Asterisk what? Reviving the dead? Asterisk. Asterisk life and death are in God's hands. In other words, denying death is an act of defiance against God, for which the perpetrator must pay a heavy price. Resurrection magic is forbidden among dark mages. A high-ranking dark mage like the Count couldn't possibly not know this. What in the world is he thinking? Asterisk. However, Aijuan said with a regretful tone, but, brother, I don't intend to offer this child as a sacrifice. Cheza was dumbfounded, wondering, asterisk, was I meant to be a sacrifice? Seriously? Asterisk Benjen replied in a low voice. Right? I don't agree with that disgusting act either. Suddenly, Kien's voice rang out. Really now? My lovely children, while father was away. What are you talking about? It would have been nice if you had told father too. Cheza narrowed her eyes, wondering, asterisk Kien is planning to use resurrection magic. Could it be because of that? Asterisk. About 15 years ago, it was said that Count Basilian had a chance encounter with a woman in the Black Forest and fell in love with her. The Count loved her intensely, even though he didn't know why she was in the Black Forest or what her identity was. He must have loved her so much that he personally went to the Emperor and ennobled her so he could marry her. They lived harmoniously and had 3 sons together. It seemed that this happy life would last forever, but one day the Countess suddenly passed away. The cause of death was not revealed. However, after his wife's death, the Count, who was already reclusive, shut himself away in the castle even more. Yes, that was before he adopted child. Connecting the pieces, she thought, asterisk, and to revive the Countess, he needs me as a sacrifice. The Count is known to have loved his wife deeply. Ever since I learned he was a dark mage, I should have guessed. But if it's simply for a sacrifice, why is he being so selective? Asterisk, while she was lost in thought, Benjen regained his composure. He took a handkerchief from his pocket and offered it. Father's lost his mind because of the Black Forest miasma. Come on in. Kian took the handkerchief, quickly turned around, and wiped the blood from his hand while saying, "My sons are already close to their little sister. This makes father so happy." He then bent down, looked at Chesa, and said, "Chesa, you must have been surprised by father's strange state. I was so worried about Chesa that I immediately returned from the Black Forest." Although the blood on Kian had been wiped away, as someone with experience, Chesa immediately smelled the familiar scent of blood. He seems mentally unstable. Kian suddenly picked her up and said affectionately, "Chesa, my daughter Chesa, how could father use Chesa as a sacrifice? It's absurd. I don't need to hear such nonsense from you, brothers. Father only wants one thing from Chesa." Chesa feigned innocence and asked, "What is it?" A flicker of anticipation arose within her. One thing. Finally, she would hear the real reason. Kian leaned down and whispered in her ear, "Bring the Fairy Queen's crown to father. Let's go to the Holy Kingdom." Chesa, the Fairy Queen's crown, the artifact the Fairy Queen presented to the Holy King in praise of God. This crown is a sacred treasure of the Hinder Holy Kingdom. Very little is known about its uses or powers. It's only known that only pure children under 5 years old, the Emperor of the Palin Empire, and the fairies are allowed to touch it. However, because it was created by the fairies, a heretical existence, a fierce debate arose over whether the Fairy Queen's crown was worthy of being preserved as a sacred treasure. After a long period of contention, it was finally removed from the list of sacred treasures and declared that the crown would be bestowed upon the child who demonstrated their piety during the prayer ceremony. Chesa lay sprawled on her bed, a thoughtful expression on her face. She thought to herself, "That's the little saint's prayer ceremony that will be held in a few months. So, the Count is looking for a child to participate, to obtain the Fairy Queen's crown." Although she knew about it through rumors from the underworld, she didn't covet it. What did Kian intend to do with the crown? She recalled Kian's word from that afternoon, "Don't worry, I'll do everything to ensure Chesa obtains it." She continued to ponder. "It seems he'll stop at nothing to possess the crown. But I don't want it. I'd rather die than pray." How dreadful. Her brow furrowed. Moreover, the Holy Knights and even the Heretic Inquisitor are stationed in the Holy Kingdom. If I go there and encounter that man, I'll most likely die. At this point, Chesa tossed and turned on a large bed. The people of the underworld and the fairies are treated as heretics, sworn enemies of the Holy Kingdom. Kian is a dark mage, so he should be the same as me. But why does he keep mentioning the Holy Kingdom? Then she jumped out of bed and declared, "I must escape from here. I'd rather he threaten me like he did before." She thought to herself, "Now I know the Count's purpose. There's no reason to stay here any longer. If my adoption is for the prayer ceremony, then it probably has nothing to do with the fairy experiments, right? The target is a fairy artifact. I'm a bit annoyed, but my life is more important. I have to escape before something happens." I prepared invisibility flowers for times like these. Thinking this, she popped a flower into her mouth. Then she ran straight out, thinking, "Stay well, Basilian." As she ran, a petal fell. Coincidentally, a foot stepped on it. Then a cold voice rang out, "A floral scent." He picked up the petal and asked, "Why is there a flower in the mansion?" It was the second son of the Basilian family, Kaha Basilian. Seeing her invisibility flower discovered, Chesa cursed inwardly. "Damn it, why now? I have to hurry before I'm found." A while later, in the garden, Chesa was hiding in a bush, hands on her hips, panting, finally escaped. Why are that brat's instincts so sharp? I even dropped a flower on the way. This is almost a disaster. I have to hurry outside. Just as Chesa turned around after that thought, she saw Kaha standing next to her. She broke out in a cold sweat, wondering, when did this kid get here? Feigning innocence, she stammered, "Hello." Kaha bent down, asking suspiciously, "What's this? A new little sister?" Strange. Following the trail of flower petals, he suddenly crouched down and said, "Never mind. Why are you going out so late?" Chesa mumbled, "I'm going for a walk." Kaha asked suspiciously, This flower, is it yours? I picked it up on the way here." Chesa immediately replied, "Oh no." Hearing that, Kaha stood up, his eyes still glued to the flower in his hand. I think I smell a similar scent. Stay still for a moment." He bent down, and Chesa replied in surprise, "Yes." While Kaha was sniffing her hair, she wondered suspiciously, what is he doing? Did he find out? How could that be? Just as Chesa's heart was about to leap out of her chest from fear, a sudden bell chime saved her. Kaha looked towards the bell tower and said, "Seems like we have an uninvited guest." With that, he scooped Chesa up into his arms. Holding her, Kaha presented the invisible flower and said, "We're going to check the gate now. Take this flower." Meanwhile, at the gate, a mustached man was angrily shouting, "What's with this arrogant attitude? A noble receiving an imperial edict, and this is how you behave?" Kian asked wearily, "Count Rudin, why couldn't you have come during the day?" He gestured for the edict, clearly irritated by the man's behavior. but the man gritted his teeth and read aloud. Count Basilian is to immediately proceed to the imperial palace upon receiving the summons. This is the emperor's order. Disobedience will be considered treason. Furthermore, the newly adopted daughter of the family, Leysa Basilian, is also to proceed to the palace. Hearing this from afar, Leysa thought with a start. Me too. Looking at Qian's expression, she murmured, I have a bad feeling about this. Hearing that, Qian's face hardened, his eyes sharp as he stared at Count Rudin. Leysa thought in surprise, what a ridiculous edict. Immediately depart for the capital in the dead of night, and take me along too. As soon as Count Rudin finished speaking, he mounted his horse. As he was about to ride off, he added, don't be late. Seeing him ride off like a bat out of hell, while still talking big, Qian scoffed and sighed. In the middle of the night, how rude. Suddenly, he stood up and said, anyway, I was worried sick because someone disappeared. Right, Leysa? Her face paled, a pang of guilt hitting her. He knew she had disappeared. Before she could think much, Qian picked her up. He said, I was so surprised not to find Leysa in her bedroom. I thought someone had kidnapped her. I was even about to send out the hounds. Hearing this, Leysa wondered, why is he so attached to me? Qian suddenly asked, so you were out for a walk with your brother? Leysa stammered, yes. Haha, remained silent for a moment. Then he suddenly said, how embarrassing. Just like how he treated Mother. Is it because that child resembles Mother? Leysa was inwardly surprised. Mother? So all this time, when he said I resembled someone, he meant the deceased countess? Does he need to be this dramatic? Even if there's a resemblance, it's only the hair color. Because the beauty of the fairies is created from illusions. In reality, humans can't. Hey, Qian smiled without replying. Then, as if to evade the question, he turned his head and said, we've found Leysa. Everything's prepared. To the Imperial Palace. Noon tomorrow, the Imperial Palace. In the reception room, Qian sat cross-legged, arms folded, and remarked, the Imperial Palace is still the same. Leysa, sitting beside him, radiated a gloomy aura and wondered, why am I always caught up in these strange situations? If this continues, escaping the Count's family anytime soon will be impossible. While she was lost in thought, Qian, having lost his patience, looked over at Count Rudin. So, when will we be granted an audience with His Majesty? He calmly replied, please wait patiently. Before you meet His Majesty, there is someone. Just as he said this, the door opened. Seeing the person who entered, Count Rudin said, you've arrived at the perfect time. Allow me to introduce you. This is a holy knight of the holy nation of Hinder, Sir Hylan. Leysa's eyes widened immediately. She thought, Hylan? Why is he here? The leader of the heretical inquisitors, Hylan, a heretical inquisitor belonging to the holy nation of Hinder. There are only 13 people qualified to become inquisitors. They are a powerful group holding the right to immediate judgment and pardon. As the highest-ranking clergyman, second only to the Holy King and the cardinals, they are secretly operating in many places to restore order to the continent. Among them, only Hylan can handle the holy relic, the chains of condemnation. In Hinder, he is praised as the proof of God. Sweat began to bead on her face, and her brows furrowed. Before I became a child, I was constantly pursued by Hylan. A heretical inquisitor is a secret identity. I know he usually disguises himself as a holy knight, but I never expected to meet him here. Could it be that he's recognized me, even though I'm smaller? Just as she thought this, she suddenly saw Hylan turn towards her. She guiltily averted her gaze. Seeing her expression, Hylan narrowed his eyes. With suspicion, he walked directly towards Leysa. Watching Hylan's hand reach out, her heart pounded with alarm. What is this? Why is he suddenly coming towards me? Don't come here, you madman. At that precarious moment, Qian suddenly grabbed Hylan's wrist. He asked, Noble Holy Knight, do you have some business with my daughter? Hylan withdrew his hand and said politely, my apologies. This child resembles someone I know. Qian retorted, resembles a child who's only 5 years old? I'm curious to know who that person is. Seeing the situation getting tense, Count Rudin intervened, exclaiming, be careful with your words and actions, Count Basilian. This is a member of the First Order Holy Knight Division. Qian remained unfazed. Yes, that's so? Why don't you introduce him then? I am Qian Basilian. Hylan calmly replied, I am Hylan. After the introduction, Qian continued to question him. What business does a holy knight have at the Imperial Palace? I thought I would have time to socialize with His Majesty. Hylan answered, I requested His Majesty summon you here, Count, to confirm the identity of the child who attended the Little Saint's prayer meeting. Therefore, I would appreciate it if you would excuse yourself for a moment. Qian narrowed his eyes, a wave of killing intent emanating from him. Confirm her identity? Does the holy nation suddenly conduct identity confirmations like this? Hylan, equally unyielding, responded to ensure there's no interference from external factors. This is unavoidable, especially since the gift for this prayer ceremony is a holy relic. You understand the need for caution, Count. Your cooperation is required. Kien sighed, his voice deepening. Since you've said that much, I can't do anything, but something like earlier can't happen again. After threatening Hylan, Kien bent down and patted Chase's head. Chesa, if anything happens, call me immediately. If you miss me, you can call too. She smiled brightly and replied yes. Inwardly, she pleaded no, don't go. I don't want to be alone with Hylan. Leaning close to her ear, Kien whispered in a chilling voice, and do you remember what I told you? Just do one thing right. Today, Chesa, you must not make any mistakes. He then changed his tone. All right then, I'll be back. Left alone with Hylan, Chesa thought, in the end, it's just the two of us. What is he trying to confirm? If he recognizes me, how should I respond? Here it comes. Seeing Hylan approach, Chesa quickly turned back, pretending nothing was wrong. Suddenly, he said, no matter how I look at it, she looks very similar. There might be a man involved without my knowledge. Chesa, puzzled, wondered, what does that mean? Her confusion was quickly cleared up when Hylan asked, are you Lysigia's daughter? Her eyes widened, and she stammered inwardly. What the hell is he talking about? The ill-fated relationship between me and Hylan stretched far back, to the middle of a desolate forest. Our first encounter was when both of our fates were drastically changing. I was so tired of living on the run. Hylan was expected to become a knight trainee of the Empire, and I asked him for one thing. At that time, I was so desperate that I made an almost unacceptable request. Kill me. Of course, he didn't listen to my plea. And after that brief encounter, time passed, and we walked our separate paths. Before that, I also told him, don't die meaninglessly. Now, we're in this awkward relationship, chasing and being chased. But if we die, we both think we should die at each other's hands. There's still an undefined relationship between us. Back in reality, Chase's face was still stiff, unable to overcome this mental shock. But meeting a man, this guy who understands my situation better than anyone, thinks I was in love? Hylan got up and sat down on the chair next to Chesa. He said, it seems it's still too early for you to answer that question. He asked, so I'll ask your name. Chesa sullenly replied, Chesa. He continued, Chesa, were you forced to participate in the prayer ceremony? Chesa immediately evaded, puppy. No. Hylan repeated his question, I'm asking if you were forced to participate in the prayer ceremony. If so, I can help you. Chesa curtly replied, no need. Hylan responded, all right, that's good. I'll ask again. Does your birth mother have bright blonde hair and red eyes? Or have you ever seen butterflies or flowers? Anything is fine. Tell me what you remember about your birth mother. Chesa frowned, her brows furrowed in annoyance. I don't know. She thought to herself, what is this? He's talking about me again. Hurry up and finish asking about the prayer ceremony. Hylan reached out and grabbed his shirt, pulling it open. Fine then. Chesa was startled and panicked. What's wrong with him? Is he out his mind? Why is he suddenly taking off his shirt? Hylan quickly pulled his shirt open, revealing part of his chest. Chase's mouth dropped open, and she quickly covered her eyes with her hands. He's crazy. Hey, Hylan called out. Hey you. He pointed at the pattern on his chest and asked, have you ever seen this pattern before? Chesa, of course, recognized it. She remembered it very clearly. Because of that, it's something I carved on him before. Kien suddenly approached from afar. He said in a threatening tone, hey, do you want to die, Hylan? What kind of despicable act is a holy knight doing in front of a 5-year-old child? Hylan explained, I was just asking. Kien mocked, taking off your shirt to ask, That pattern is the mark of the witch. Why haven't you erased it? It's normal for a holy knight to cut their flesh to remove heretical symbols. Hylan asked curiously, do you know Leysa? Kien smirked. You did this to my daughter just to ask about the witch's whereabouts? After saying that, he immediately reached for the lamp placed on the table. He pressed the lamp against Hylan's neck. Chesa has nothing to do with the witch. Don't test my patience, and it would be better if we didn't meet again. Chesa anxiously observed the situation. The atmosphere was too tense. Were they really going to fight? Hylan bowed his head and said, every child attending the prayer ceremony is assigned an escort knight, and I was assigned to escort the Basilian Count family. Kien scoffed, Hylan continued, I will escort you two safely to the Holy Nation. Kien retorted sarcastically, escort, not surveillance. Hylan replied, think what you will. Also, I think you should pay attention to your behavior, Count. Aren't you being watched? So, we'll meet again on the day we depart for the Holy Nation. After Hylan left, Chesa breathed a sigh of relief. Thanks to Kien's intervention, the matter ended quickly, but Kien not only knew her, but also knew about her mark. Kien still kept his eyes on Hylan. Chesa suddenly called out, Father. Kien turned to look at her. Chesa smiled brightly, holding out her arms towards Kien. Hug me. She thought to herself, I can't escape anyway, so I'll cooperate for now and see what happens. Kien smiled gently and picked Chesa up. Chesa asked, but where did you go, Father? Kien replied, Oh, I went to see His Majesty the Emperor. A few minutes earlier, Kien had gone to meet Palin, the Emperor of the Empire. Palin said, thank you for coming, Count Basilian. I apologize for summoning you so suddenly. All right, have you greeted Holy Knight Hinder? Kian asked, puzzled Holy Knight. His face suddenly darkened, his eyes widening in fear. Palin asked worriedly, Count, is there a problem? Kian said, Your Majesty must be clear. Kian immediately stepped forward and gripped the chair Palin was sitting on. He stood close to Palin, glaring angrily and saying, That bastard is a heretical inquisitor. What are your Majesty's intentions in handing my daughter over to a heretical inquisitor? Back in the present, Kian cheerfully told Chiesa, It's been a while since we last met, so we had a very pleasant conversation, but I was afraid Chiesa would be waiting, so I quickly came back to see you. Chiesa asked, Then should I also meet His Majesty? Kian said indifferently, No need. Why would Chiesa go see that old pig? Since we're here, let's take a walk around the Imperial Palace. Chiesa was still bewildered and confused. It seemed like she had just heard something terrifying. Kian then carried Chiesa around the Imperial Palace grounds, gently saying, If you see anything you like, tell me, and I'll make the same thing for you at home. Chiesa obediently replied yes. Kian immediately asked Chiesa about what had just happened, but Chiesa, my child, what did you talk about with the Holy Knight? Chiesa smiled brightly. The Holy Knight asked me if I had a puppy, and I said no. I did well, right, father? Chiesa thought to herself. Being too honest doesn't help at all. Kian continued to ask, Yes, you did very well. Did the Holy Knight say anything strange? Chiesa looked at him blankly. He was still bothered by that. Asterisk, it can't be helped. He's afraid that because of Hylan, I won't be able to participate in the prayer meeting, and he's uneasy about whether the Count's family will be viewed negatively. Or should I take this opportunity to get closer to him? Asterisk Chiesa reached out and gently stroked Kian's head. She said softly, Father, Chiesa is on your side, so don't worry. Kian stared at Chiesa in surprise. The sky this morning was clear and bright, and the scenery of the Imperial Palace with its lush green trees was also splendid and pleasant. Kian said softly, You don't even need to be this much like her, even in this. After that day, Chiesa and Kian returned to their residence. A few days later, at the Basilian family residence. There are 3 months left until the juvenile prayer meeting, so we decided to stay in the capital until then. Chiesa strolled leisurely through the grounds, humming as she walked. It was truly peaceful, she thought. After returning from the Imperial Palace, Kian has often been away from home, probably because of what happened in the garden. She recalled Kian's eyes, smile, and words back at the Imperial Palace. Asterisk, you don't even need to be this much like her, even in this. Asterisk, she had been so surprised. It was the first time she had seen that side of Kian. Asterisk, I'm curious about what the Countess was like, and to investigate Kian further. Someone who knows me so well, I've decided to postpone my escape from here. However, we've been away from the Count's territory for a while, so it won't be easy. At least here, I might be able to learn something. Asterisk. Chiesa was deep in thought when Aijuan suddenly appeared, smiling brightly. Hello, little sister. Kaha was with Aijuan. Kaha asked her, how was the Imperial Palace? Aijuan was also curious. Was the prayer meeting safe? Chiesa answered awkwardly. Yes. She thought helplessly. This family isn't helping me at all. Asterisk from Kian to the twins, please leave me alone. Asterisk Aijuan asked with concern, have you eaten anything, little one? If you're bored, we can play with you. Benzian looked down from upstairs, intently observing Chiesa. Asterisk, in the end, that child was allowed to participate in the prayer meeting. Asterisk, then he wondered, what should I do now, mother? Benzian painfully recalled, my peaceful family fell apart with mother's sudden illness. Before she passed away, she had called him, Benzian, there's something I want to ask of you. Kian, your father, is suffering greatly. You must protect your siblings and Basilian. Benzian's face flushed and his eyes welled up. Yes, I will definitely protect everyone. She continued, I'm sorry for placing such a heavy responsibility on your shoulders at such a young age. That was the last time Benzian saw his mother. After those days of Dufu, she breathed her last. His mother's death changed many things. Aijuan tugged on Benzian's sleeve. Brother, I can't find mother. I looked for her yesterday, but I couldn't find her. Ka also said he couldn't smell mother's scent, and he couldn't smell the scent of the baby in mother's belly. At that moment, Benzian's throat tightened, rendering him speechless. He thought sadly, my younger siblings are searching everywhere for mother because they're too young to understand what death is. Then he quietly turned away. Aijuan called out in bewilderment, brother. Benzian chose to remain silent. I can't tell them. And more importantly, Astra's father's condition is worse than mother described. He's not only ignoring Basilian's work, but he's also indifferent to us, just slumped over beside mother's body. Asterisk. Kian sat listlessly in front of his deceased wife's grave all day, even as the rain poured down. Benzian approached him, holding an umbrella over him, and said, "Father, snap out of it. How long do you intend to sit here? Mother wouldn't want to see you like this. Father, stop this and come back with me." Kian now seemed like a lost soul, his eyes vacant, as if his whole world had vanished. Benzian's heart ached for him, and he bit his lip to endure the pain. His hands trembled. He can't stay like this forever. Then he shouted, "Father, you are Count Basilian. As the serpent who governs the Black Forest, you have responsibilities and duties to fulfill." Kian suddenly burst into laughter like a madman. Ha! His shoulders shook. Then he tilted his head back, his laughter growing louder. The umbrella in Benzian's hand fell to the ground. Only then did Kian say, "Basilian, that's right." Benzian recounted. On the day Father remembered he was Basilian, he held roses from Mother's grave and said, "I am Count Basilian. Can't I revive the dead?" Benjamin realized this was the moment Kian began to change, the moment that marked his downfall, the beginning of his madness. After Mother's death, Father completely lost his mind. Being by his side, I understand clearly. Outwardly, he seems fine, but no one knows how shattered his soul is. Why resort to such forbidden practices? After he went mad, due to his wife's passing, he called for me with a blood-covered face. "Benjin, I've finally found a way to bring your mother back." I've always been watching him, and I witnessed the entire process. I must stay alert. He intends to use the crown, the holy nation's sacred relic, as a sacrifice. The moment his plan to use black magic is discovered will be the end of the Basilian family. That innocent child will also be executed for colluding with him. Mother wouldn't want this to happen, but I still haven't figured out how to stop Father. Even the twins agree with this insane act. And our new little sister, she's adapting better than I thought. If the sibling in Mother's womb had been born, would they have looked like this? Benjin recalled Chase's bright smile and delighted expression. Asterisk, she likes this place. She likes Father. Asterisk. Benjin pondered. Asterisk, what should I do? I hate everything. Asterisk, Kian suddenly entered Benzian's room, startling him. Kian questioned, "What's with that stare, Benzian? Concerned about your siblings now." Benzian glanced at him. "Stop sneaking around like a thief and speak up, Count." Kian glared at him. Benzian said, "In the end, because of that despicable greed, you dragged even a child into your plan." Kian stepped closer. "Really? Why don't you think of it as pure love?" Benzian then asked about Kian's plan. "What do you intend to do after this?" Kian questioned, "Do what?" Benzian replied, "Since you've announced to everyone your intention to participate in the Little Saints prayer meeting, all attention will be focused on our Basilian family. At that time, Basilian, which has been hiding in the shadows, will have to step out into the light. Therefore, expanding our influence outwards from now on is a wise choice." Kian smiled faintly. "I'll think about it." Benzian looked at Kian with a helpless, hopeless gaze. He hasn't listened to me from the very beginning. That gaze was clearly not directed towards the future of Basilian, but towards the dead past. Kian was staring at Kaha and Aijuan, who were strolling with Chiza in the garden. Kaha said, "Little one, look, these flowers are beautiful." Aijuan also doted on her. "I'll carry you." But Chiza wasn't very happy. How annoying. Benzian was lost in thought. "But I can't sacrifice the future for the past because of the promise I made to Mother." He said, "Count, I will protect this family." Benzian was determined to fulfill his mother's wish. "Just like how you defied everything to commit that taboo, I will defy everything to stop you." Kaha eagerly said, "Little one, try this." However, Aijuan said, "No, eat this first." Several weeks had passed since I arrived at the townhouse in the capital. Kaha brought the plate of cookies closer to her and said, "Eat the cookies first." Aijuan also brought a spoonful of cake in front of Chiza. "The cake is better." I'm now used to the attention from these twins. Chiza, her cheeks puffed out as she chewed, thought these two, originally the youngest, are now acting like older brothers, so they're excited. To the point of seeing me as an interesting existence. For now, I want their help whenever needed, so I'm trying to gain their favor. But at this rate, when will I be able to investigate? Outside, two maids were also whispering, so cute. Ever since the young lady arrived, the atmosphere in the house has become much brighter. Just then, the butler entered and said, "Miss, young masters." Young Master Benzian has summoned everyone. Aijuan turned around and coldly asked why. The butler explained, "Count and Countess Rudin are visiting." When they saw the three of them appear, Countess Rudin immediately praised. "The young lady and the young masters are so adorable." At this moment, Chiza, being carried by Aijuan, narrowed her eyes, assessing the woman in front of her. "Isn't she the noble who delivered the imperial edict last time? What's she here for again today?" Countess Rudin smiled and greeted them that it's a pleasure to meet you. "I am Countess Rudin. We've come here on imperial orders to educate everyone on etiquette." Count Rudin coldly turned away. "His Majesty personally welcomed the Count's new child and sent us, so consider this an honor. However, this education is something the Count should have received long ago." "Umph." Benzian's face hardened at these words, his eyes looking as if he wanted to devour Count Rudin at any moment. Chiza observed the expression on Benzian's face and affirmed, from the last incident, it seems the relationship between the Emperor and Qian isn't good. As expected, their purpose is surveillance. That expression on Benzian's face confirms it. Count Rudin set his teacup down and said to Chiza, "So, shall we begin with Miss Chiza? From now on, you must study diligently." Countess Rudin stroked her chin, a vile smirk spreading across her face. A young lady of the Count's household cannot behave as she did in the orphanage. Chiza remained silent, fuming inwardly. Asterisk this childish criticism right from the start. It's not even worth a response. Asterisk. But Kaha suddenly spoke up, warning her, "Hey, watch your mouth. We have ears, you know." Aijuan added anxiously, "Those words are hard to swallow. I'm deciding whether to kill you or let you live." Benzian snapped, his gaze sharp as he coldly reprimanded his younger brothers. Aijuan. He glared at them, his eyes filled with anger. Then, turning to Count and Countess Rudin, Benzian apologized, "I'm sorry. They're still young and don't understand propriety. Please forgive their rudeness." Count Rudin trembled with rage. He stammered, both father and sons are equally insolent. Is this the Basilian family tradition? Count Basilian is here, yet he lets a brat speak for him. Startled by Count Rudin's harsh criticism, Benzian exclaimed, "Count Basilian." He pressed his lips together, bowing his head in silence. But Count Rudin continued his tirade, his words cutting deep. "Now I understand how the snake's lair operates. Crystal clear. This behavior comes from being raised without a mother." Benzian's eyes widened in shock at the cruel words. Count Rudin stormed off, fuming, "I will absolutely not overlook this. Be sure to relay that to the Count." Aijuan and Kaha silently watched him go. Aijuan exclaimed, "Brother, I'll go right now." Benzian cut him off coldly. "Stop. Please, just stop." With that, he turned and walked away. The three remaining in the room watched him go in silence. Aijuan said sadly, "Brother's pride is hurt." Chiza thought angrily. He completely ruined the mood. Aijuan was still seething with resentment towards Countess Rudin. That woman started it with little one. We should just kill her. But Kaha was apprehensive. But brother will be furious if he finds out. Chiza wondered, why did this have to happen while Qian is away? This incident gives the Emperor an excuse against Basilian, which is a problem, but more importantly, she recalled Count Rudin's insult to Benzian, being raised without a mother. Chiza worried he won't be able to handle that. Those careless words brought back memories of her own time wandering the streets. The insults seemed to have been spoken just yesterday. Asterisk tisk, motherless brat, what do you know? Get lost, orphan. Asterisk, she felt a deep empathy for Benzian. I understand that miserable feeling all too well. With that thought, she held out her hand to Aijuan. Let me down. She thought urgently. Asterisk, I have a check on Benzian. It can't hurt to be kind, since I'm infiltrating anyway. Asterisk. She paused before a door, wondering, is it here? Chiza opened the door and stepped inside. She tilted her head, looking for Benzian in the room. Suddenly, Chiza was taken aback by the sight before her. Benzian was burying his face in his hands. Chiza wondered, is he crying? She walked closer to Benzian and spoke. Benzian, just sit here for a moment. I feel like I should comfort him, but honestly, I don't know how. To do that, well, just sitting next to him like this, like I did with Hada, should be fine, right? A while later, Benzian finally spoke to Chiza, Kaha, and Aijuan. I'm angry because of Basilian, not because of you, and I don't want you to become a Basilian. Acting cute with me won't work. Chiza feigned innocence and asked, acting cute? What's that? Admit it. She smiled, offering a bouquet of flowers to Benzian. Benzian asked in surprise, what's this? His eyes widened in astonishment when he heard Chiza's words, smelling flowers will improve your mood. This also reminded him of his deceased mother. Benzian, Chiza comforted him. If you smell the flowers, you'll feel better. Don't be sad now. A tear unexpectedly rolled down Benzian's cheek. He held his forehead, tears continuing to fall. Soon after, the entire room was filled with pitiful sobs. After he had cried enough, Benzian wiped his tears and told Chiza, I just want to keep my promise to my mother. The Count and my two younger brothers are doing as they please. If this continues, the Basilian family will collapse. But I have to protect this family, because it's the only place that holds my mother's memories. I want to protect what's important, so I won't let you become a Basilian. If you participate in the Count's crazy plan, the family will definitely collapse. Moreover, I don't want to take advantage of an innocent child. At such a young age, I don't know if you understand. Chiza thought to herself, crying like that, and then pretending to be an adult. He's still just a child. Benzian looked at her with a serious expression. S.O. Don't get attached too quickly. I'll get you out of here soon. Don't do anything useless from now on. Chiza replied yes. As she reached the door, Basilian suddenly spoke. Flowers. Thank you. Chiza stood outside the door, looking into the room through the crack. After the door closed, she didn't leave immediately, but just stood there silently. She thought to herself, as if that wasn't insulting enough. Recalling Lady Rudin's harsh words, "You can't behave like you did back at the orphanage." To have a brat as the representative. Chiza thought scornfully, picking on a child so much younger than me. She said angrily, ugh. Then, gritting her teeth, she gave a cold smile and muttered, "What a frustrating situation. It's been a while. I need to act like a villainess again." That night, at Count Rudin's mansion, his triumphant laughter echoed throughout the mansion, truly satisfying. Seeing that Basilian didn't dare do anything in front of him, Count Rudin was overjoyed thinking about what he was about to achieve. With this imperial decree, I'll gain a new title and territory. Thinking about Count Basilian having to apologize to him, he looked at the glass of wine in his hand and said happily, "I feel full already." A moment later, the room fell completely silent. Several bottles of wine sat on the table. Count Rudin had fallen asleep. A stranger suddenly appeared in his room. Chiza looked at him and thought, "So Count Rudin is here. You dare use us for your amusement? Now it's your turn." Count Rudin, sound asleep, suddenly woke up. A giant bear stood before him. Count Rudin screamed in terror. "Who's there?" His eyes widened, his mouth agape, his face etched with fear. Then he yelled, "What's going on?" Leysa smiled and said, "Hello. Welcome to my illusionary realm, a special illusionary domain that only the fairy race can create." Count Rudin's face paled. He stammered, "You, the witch Leysa." A giant chess piece suddenly fell. Count Rudin ran while screaming, ugh. He thought in terror, what in the world is happening? The witch disappeared, so why is she here? No, more importantly, why is she after me? Seeing him running for his life, Leysa thought with amusement, "Such a pathetic sight, Count, just as I thought. Toying with people in the illusionary realm is the most enjoyable. Moreover, at least I can return to my true form in the illusionary realm. But I can't maintain it for long. It's a shame, but must end." She raised a finger, and a stone chess piece appeared, blocking Count Rudin's path. Seeing the giant wall in front of him, Count Rudin trembled with fear, ugh. Leysa laughed loudly, but then said with feigned regret, "Oh dear, caught already? How boring." Overcome with fear, Count Rudin knelt down and begged Leysa, "Spare my life. I have a wife and young children to take care of." Leysa rested her chin on her hand and replied with a smile, "Oh, is that so? What a coincidence. I also have a terrifying father and brothers." A vine reached out and tightened around his neck, making him cry out, "Gah." In his desperation, Count Rudin repeatedly screamed, "Please spare my life. Why are you doing this to me?" Leysa stood up and said, "Why? What would the Count think when killing a bothersome insect?" Count Rudin trembled as he answered her, "Nothing at all." Leysa stepped closer to him and continued, "Exactly the same thought. Do I need a reason to kill the Count?" Hearing this, he was too terrified to speak. She continued to ask, "Where should I start first?" His contemptuous words echoed in her mind. Only someone raised without a mother would act like this. Leysa gave a crazed smile. She raised her hand. Indeed, it's the tongue. Suddenly, her actions froze. Leysa thought to herself, "I sense an external power outside the illusionary realm. Damn it, I haven't killed him yet." Immediately afterward, the entire illusionary realm began to crumble. Leysa returned to her childlike form. She gritted her teeth and thought angrily, "I have to escape." Chiza hid behind a bookshelf, peeking out to observe the situation outside. There was a noise coming from outside the door. Then a light appeared. Seeing the man who had just appeared, Chiza was extremely surprised. "Kien, could it be that this morning's events have reached Kien's ears? Even so, he rushed over here because he's a father, right?" At this moment, Count Rudin was still trembling in fear. He kept muttering, "Spare me." Kien snapped his fingers, and Count Rudin immediately regained his senses, still gasping for breath. When he saw the man standing before him, Count Rudin's eyes widened in terror. He exclaimed, "Count Basilian, you did this, toying with me in an illusion in the middle of the night. How arrogant." Kien smiled and sighed, saying to him, "What are you talking about? Did you have a nightmare? But you wanted to come here and apologize to you." Count Rudin's hands were bound by an unseen force. He cried out in fear, "This black magic? How can you wield such wicked power? God will punish you." Immediately afterward, a scream filled with terror echoed through the space. Kien pressed Count Rudin's head to the ground with his foot. He said coldly, "Your tongue never stops wagging." Count Rudin, terrified, hastily explained, "You've misunderstood something." Kien asked him, "What have I misunderstood?" "Abusing imperial authority to come to my house while I was absent." Count Rudin stammered that. Kien began listing all of his offenses, criticizing my child for being from an orphanage and insulting my children for not having a mother, or wanting Count Basilian to come here and apologize to you. Count Rudin pleaded for his life. "Please spare me. If you spare me, I won't tell anyone about this." Kian didn't agree, but simply said, "We'll see. I don't want to let you live. In return, I'll make it quick. My little daughter is waiting for me at home." Then, the chair placed in the courtyard suddenly creaked under a heavy weight. Count Rudin tremblingly grasped the rope. Kian continued speaking in a mesmerizing tone, "Don't be so tense." He put his neck into the noose. With a murderous tone, Kian said, "Smile, Count." Then the chair was kicked out from under him, and he was strangled by the rope. Chiza, who had been observing from a hidden corner from the beginning, was startled. She thought, "Kian, this man is more insane than I thought." She put a hand to her mouth, pondering. "I thought he was just going to warn him, but he actually killed him. If there's a problem, it's definitely because Count Rudin reported what happened today at the Basilian residence to the Emperor. If they discover the Count's death tomorrow, Basilian will be the prime suspect. I was going to end it with him being caught up in the witch's volatile temper, but he suddenly interfered and complicated everything. What should I do?" At this moment, Kian closed his pocket watch and sighed. Time flies. He muttered under his breath, causing Chiza, hidden in the corner, to cover her mouth. "Chiza is waiting for me." Chiza quickly ran away, thinking, "This isn't the time for this. I have to go back too." A moment later, at the Basilian family residence, Chiza stopped after entering the residence. She transformed back into her nightgown, thinking to herself, "Phew, thankfully I'm not late. I have to hurry back to my room." While she was thinking, Kian's voice rang out, "Chiza." She froze, watching him walk towards her step by step. "Father." Kian lifted her up in his arms, causing Chiza to grimace and think, "He probably didn't see me use fairy magic, right?" Faced with Kian's darkened expression, Chiza ventured to ask, "Father, when did you get back?" Then he pressed his cheek against hers. Kian smiled lovingly and drew out her name, Che. S.A. Her cheek rubbed raw. She wondered, wait, what's going on now? That strong smell from earlier. Could he be drunk? Kian was now muttering to himself, "Chiza, my lovely daughter, Daddy will give you a cookie." He held a bag of cookies out to her and asked, "Don't you like them?" This only made Chiza more certain. Definitely drunk. She accepted the cookies, pouting as she thought, asterisk because Count Rudin also smelled of alcohol. I didn't realize. King gets drunk too? Asterisk's actions are so obvious that I didn't realize. Looking at how he didn't kill Count Rudin immediately and disguised it as a suicide, it seems he has his own judgment. Is it because he's always on guard and unconsciously lets loose when he gets home? Thinking this, Chiza smiled brightly and replied, "I like cookies." Kian smiled back, right? "I thought of Chiza, so I brought them back." "I'm glad you like them." The image of Kian from a few minutes ago, saying, "My little girl is waiting for me at home," flashed through her mind. Chiza clutched the bag of cookies a little tighter, thinking, even when I wasn't there, he cared about me like a daughter and even brought back cookies while drunk. It's been a while since I felt cared for by someone. Suddenly, Kian raised his hand, creating a protective spell. Cheese is here too. Now let's go to sleep. With a snap of his fingers, they were in Kian's room. He grinned and said, "All right, Daddy will sleep with Chiza." Lying on the bed with him, Chiza grimaced. "Aren't you going to change? Just want to sleep like this." Suddenly, Kian reached out and stroked her head. He looked at Chiza with hazy eyes. Then he said something that surprised her. "I shouldn't have dealt with the one who insulted Basilian so lightly." Kian spoke to himself and then chuckled. He closed his eyes, his voice trailing off. "I'm acting a bit strange today, aren't I? I'm sorry. I should have drank in moderation, but I ended up drunk when I got home." Kian had executed Count Rudin so brutally, but in front of her, he was acting strangely gentle. Chiza stared at Kian, thinking Kian's eyes, which were always sharp when they flashed with a asterisk, dangerous glint, now resemble the eyes of a little boy crying from the innocent comfort of another child. Or am I imagining things? Asterisk. Lost in thought, she felt Kian's hand on her cheek, caressing it as he said, "Chiza. Chiza Basilian." Looking at Chiza, that image comes to mind, so I'm both tired and happy. He paused for a moment, then uttered words from the depths of his heart. "I miss you." After that, Kian drifted off to sleep. Chiza lay beside him, observing him and thinking he's asleep. So, he's been thinking about the Countess all along. Asterisk the Countess of the Basilian family. I couldn't find any relics or portraits of her in the mansion. The servants never breathed a word, as if mentioning her was taboo. Asterisk. But whenever the Countess is mentioned, the Basilian family members act differently than usual. The image of Kaha appeared, saying, "That child resembles her mother. That's why father is like that." Aijuan also placed the lily down and said, "The Count's mansion is the only place that holds memories of mother." Then Kian's half-crying, half-smiling face appeared. "Even in this, you don't have to be so similar." Recalling all of that, Chiza pouted sadly. Am I really that much like her? Then she stared up at the ceiling, thinking, even so, honestly, I don't hate it. On the contrary, when I'm called Basilian, Chiza Basilian, I really feel like I'm part of their family. Then Chiza shook her head firmly in, "Oh, now's not the time to get caught up in these feelings." She got out of bed, telling herself, "It must be because I've been interacting with the Basilians so much lately that I've forgotten this is only a temporary job." It seems Kian is very drunk and won't wake up. Chiza used a magic portal to run out of the room. Back to the investigation. Today, I'll find some solid information. At the same time, in the underworld, the shop door opened. Hada, seeing a customer, cheerfully asked, "Welcome. What precious item are you looking for?" Then his face paled and he cried out, "Brother." The person outside was startled by the shout. "Let me go. If you touch me, do you think Master Lakigia will let you get away with it?" Halen maintained his cold tone. "Oh, really? Well, when will this master come to save you then? You dog of the witch." In the dark study, a magic portal suddenly appeared. Chiza quickly stepped out. This is Kien's study. After coming to the capital, he spends most of his time here. I've been very careful about coming and going, because who knows when Kien will appear. Chiza opened her clenched hands, and pink butterflies immediately flew out. This time, I have to find something. The butterflies scattered, searching through all the books as commanded. Suddenly, Chiza received a strange book. She opened it, wondering, there's a piece of paper in the middle of the book? Then Chiza's face paled in shock. This is related to the witch Lakigia. A report about me. The next morning, Chiza and Kien were having breakfast together. He asked gently, "Chiza, eat some of this too. You don't like vegetables? Even so, you have to eat a balanced diet." Chiza looked dejectedly at the fork with a carrot on it being brought close to her mouth and replied, "Yes." Kaha whispered to Aijuan, "Why are they suddenly having breakfast together?" He stared intently at his plate and replied, "Who knows? It's not like it's the first time I've seen father act strangely." Chiza thought while chewing her food, this is driving me crazy. The information about me in the report I found last night was quite detailed. From a secret of my birth, the events during my upbringing, to the path I chose. Why is Kien investigating me? This is information that's very difficult to obtain without extensive connections in the underworld. She put down her fork and continued to think. I've been looking into it all night, but I haven't found anything else. I'm already uneasy, and now I have to sit at the dining table. This is so uncomfortable. Kien, who was reading the newspaper, suddenly exclaimed, They've already published Count Rudin's obituary. I heard he died of a heart attack. What a shame." Cheese's face darkened as she thought to herself, a heart attack. Looking at the newspaper headline, the obituary of Count Rudin, a servant of the son of the great Balan Empire, Chiza thought to herself, they say that for nobles, suicide is considered a disgrace, so they'll cover up the death like this. Kien must have anticipated this when he killed Count Rudin. Suddenly, Benjian slammed his plate down on the table with a loud bang. The entire dining table fell silent. Benjian slowly wiped his mouth. Then he raised his head and asked irritably, "Why did you kill him?" Chiza, watching, sighed inwardly. As expected, he's sharp. He continued to question, "I could have handled it myself." Kien just smiled as if he didn't know anything. Benjian became even more annoyed. "Even if you hadn't directly intervened, I could have dealt with him the Basilian way. Or did you suddenly feel the burden of the family's responsibilities?" Kien rested his chin on his hand and replied with a smile, "No, I just felt like it." Benjian froze at his words. Then he asked, puzzled, "So, did you take care of the aftermath properly?" Kien smirked, "Of course. Do you need me to recount it for you?" He lowered his head slightly and muttered, "Killing him so quietly, I feel a bit regretful. I should have hung his head in the town square." Remembering Count Rudin's words, "That thing raised without a mother," Kien said, "That feeling, it's not easy to bear." Suddenly, he exclaimed, "Oh, and one more thing." Kien looked at Chiza and said, "Now our family has a lovely little one. I'm thinking about whether or not to bring Basilian into the light, like you said." He asked Benjian, "What do you think?" Though startled, he tilted his head and replied, "That's what I want." Then Benjian warned, "But remember, once you bring Basilian into the light, you need to stop these kinds of actions. Otherwise," Kien sighed in agreement. All right. Then he turned and began delegating tasks. "We'll start with the banquet hosted by the Duke Ibriel family. I've already hired a new tutor, so you all attend class diligently. What about the attire, Aijuan?" He smiled brightly and replied, "This week, I'll go to the clothing store." Kien stood up and said, "Good, I'll clear my schedule then." Before leaving, he instructed, "Take good care of Chiza and don't cause any trouble." Chiza, seeing Kien leave, put down her fork and thought, it seems Kien is going out today as well. She said softly, "I'm finished eating. I'll be in my room." The two brothers asked in unison why. Chiza didn't turn around, only sulking, "Because I'm feeling confused." Both Kaha and Aijuan frowned. What? After entering her room, Chiza sighed. She frowned and began to contemplate. Sometimes, nobles want to prove themselves by deliberately getting involved in the underworld, but I think Kien's connection to the underworld isn't that simple. In Chiza's memory, Kien had once said, "The witch, huh?" Speaking of which, it's been quiet lately. He had also smiled and confirmed, "That pattern, it's the witch's mark, isn't it?" The paper recording information related to the witch Lakigia appeared. Moreover, he's very interested in me, a fairy. Kien's goal is to resurrect the Countess. For that, he used dark magic, but as if that wasn't enough. To compensate for the lacking power, he chose the power of the fairies, and in the process of learning about it, he's likely experimented on the fairies. The more Chiza thought about it, the tighter her grip became. Had she been too lenient, caught up in this family game, thinking Kien's goal was only resurrection magic? How could she be sure it wasn't related to the fairy experiments? It was a matter that needed to be considered throughout the entire process. I need help. If I want to find the connection between Kien and the underworld, first, I'll contact Hada. The butterfly was sent out, but it immediately flew back. Chiza looked up at it, bewildered at him. She caught the confused butterfly and asked, "Why couldn't you determine the direction?" Chiza suddenly realized something new. Could it be? This butterfly was created from fairy magic. It can track the location of a designated target. In cases where it can't track, it can only mean the target is dead or blocked by other magic. Chiza's eyes flashed with killing intent. In the current situation, someone had touched Hada. She gritted her teeth in anger. Who dares? Leysa recalled a time long ago. The first time I met Hado was on a day of pouring rain. Hado was abandoned in an alleyway on the verge of death. That child, after undergoing experiments to create a permanent puppy, was discarded due to side effects. He couldn't hide his ears and tail like other beastmen. When Leysa witnessed that scene, she silently speculated beastmen are mystical species. Looking at his appearance, it seems he was experimented on and abandoned. Could this be related to the fairy experiments? Normally, I wouldn't care, but on that day, my mood was unusually erratic. After being brought home by her, Hada felt very grateful. His voice was soft. "Thank you for treating me. I don't know how to repay this kindness." A few days later, Hata barely survived, but perhaps due to the aftereffects of the experiment, his memory wasn't complete. He scratched his head and said, "I'm sorry. Because I can't help. I don't remember what happened to me." Seeing that, Leysa looked at him indifferently and replied, "All right." Her eyes were filled with sadness. "Too bad. He's not useful to me." Despite that, Leysa raised her hand and a butterfly flew out. She said, "If you want to live here, hiding your ears and tail would be better for you." Following her words, the butterfly flew over and landed on Hata's ear. In an instant, his beastman ears disappeared. Hade felt around, checking, then exclaimed, "Oh." Leysa thought, in the underworld, this much kindness is enough. I've hidden his identity. He'll live well on his own. So, she turned to leave, instructing, "When you've recovered, return." But at this moment, Hada suddenly spoke up. Can I continue to stay here, the fairy lady?" His words made Leysa turn back to look at him. This beast man wants to swear loyalty to me? She asked irritably what? She thought to herself, living alone is already difficult enough. What is he talking about? Having thought that, she immediately refused. "I have no intention of raising a puppy." Hada, seeing her about to leave, stood up and chased after her, stopping her. Milady asked about the experiments, right? "I will help you, fairy lady. Right now, I don't have any information, but..." His hand lightly brushed against her. Leysa immediately swatted it away. She stepped back and said angrily, "Just because I helped you once, you think I'll continue to be nice to you? I'm not so free as to carry around a person, as you are. You've mistaken me for someone else. Get out of here now." She thought. He'll probably back off now. Hada looked at her sadly, then hung his head, looking pitiful. Even so, Hada didn't stop following me. Afterward, Hada always tried to show how useful he could be. Sometimes he'd hold up a potion bottle and say with a smile, "Look, I made this for the fairy lady." Other times, he'd hold up a piece of paper and excitedly report, "I found the information, Lady Leysa, as if he wanted to prove his worth and didn't want to be abandoned again. One day, Hada carefully presented a box and announced, "Fairy lady, I made jewelry that suits you." Leysa hesitantly looked at the exquisite jewelry and wondered, "Is this a dog's nature? I'll accept it and tell him straight up to stop." So she sighed softly, "I'll accept this, so stop following me now." Suddenly, Hada cried out joyfully, "You accepted it?" Leysa asked suspiciously. What? When she looked up, she saw Hadi clenching his fists, holding back tears of happiness as he said, "Finally, the fairy lady accepted something I made. I'm so happy, Witnessing this scene, Lysha's mind became a turmoil. Before, there were only criticisms, "Vile witch, damned witch, are you the daughter of that mad fairy? What outrageous thing are you planning this time?" She thought, after becoming a witch, "This is the first time someone has been happy because of me." After that, Hada continued to follow her devotedly, his demeanor unchanged, full of energy as he said, backslash fairy lady, this time I've created a new type of medicine, backslash. In the same tone, but Lisha's attitude had softened somewhat. Backslash what? Backslash she thought backslash having a puppy around isn't so bad. Backslash finally, I decided to take Hato in. Back in the present, Chesa felt incredibly angry. Backslash. If they're from the underworld, there's no way they don't know what Hata means to me. Who would dare do such a thing? To save Hata, I need to return my true form first. The problem is, that potion is in Hato's shop. Backslash, she peeked into the room and observed stealthily, backslash, if they find out I'm gone, it'll be a big deal. I need to assess the situation first. Backslash. Huh. Chesa suddenly called out, brothers. Ijul, seeing it was her, replied Chesa. He gently sat down and patted her head, explaining, we had to go out because of an emergency. We'll play together when we get back. Ka from behind urged, hurry up, we have to go. Hearing this, Ijul replied, all right. Then he said to her, okay, we'll be back. Chesa's eyes followed her brother sadly, but in her heart, she felt lucky. Oh ho, what perfect timing. Immediately after, Chesa used teleportation magic to go to Hata's place. As soon as she arrived, she was bewildered. What is this? Looking at the scattered belongings, Chesa thought, why is Hata's shop such a mess? The money and items are still here. It wasn't robbed. Damn it. She suddenly remembered the time when, upon seeing this place, Hata had exclaimed in surprise, a shop for me? Leysa had laughed and replied, yes, you're so skilled, don't let it go to waste. If you're going to do something, do it right. Hearing this, Hata had rushed to hug her and cried, Lady Leysa, I'll make it the best hat shop ever. From now on, this shop is Hatu's #1 treasure. Now, everything is a mess. Chesa clutched the hat in her hand, distressed. Hata's precious shop has become like this. I'll definitely make them pay dearly. Wait for me. I'll come save you right away. After Chesa opened the hidden mechanism, she quickly ran down the stairs leading to the secret room. It contained everything she needed. Chesa searched as she muttered, growth potion. The potion that literally makes your body grow. She touched a bottle of red liquid and wondered, is this it? For convenience, Hata had written a note on the bottle, potion for the little fairy lady. Chesa saw the note and frowned. What's with this heart? Suddenly, a noise echoed from outside. Someone entered the shop, shouting, what's going on here? Kaha looked around and wondered, was the shop robbed? Chesa immediately recognized the voice. That voice, it's Kaha. Kaha's voice continued, what could they even take at this hour? Chesa, in the secret room, panicked. Why is he here? The urgent matter he mentioned was something in the underworld. Could it be that not only Kien, but all the Basilisk members are connected to the underworld? Get a grip. Now's not the time for guessing. With Kaha's beastly instincts, he'll definitely find me. I'll drink it first. After taking the potion, her body began to grow, and then she returned to her Leysa form. Seeing her familiar body, Leysa thought to herself, good thing I grabbed the right potion. I need to get out of here. Just as she teleported, a loud crash echoed from the secret room. Ka, having caught the scent, slashed his sword through the door and entered. Sheathing his sword, he wondered, a clothing store with a secret room? Why do I smell the little one's scent? Ka noticed a bottle rolling on the floor. He picked it up and examined it. What's this? A potion for the little fairy. Lady, at that moment, chaos erupted in the underworld. A loud shout rang out, come out. Everything descended into pandemonium. Faces filled with terror, accompanied by screams. Wah, the witch. Leysa, wasn't she dead? Suddenly, Leysa roared in fury. Who touched Hata? Show yourself. After investigating Hata's whereabouts in the underworld, I learned that while I was infiltrating Basilisk, the Holy Knights caused chaos in the underworld, and the Holy Knights' actions coincided with Hata's disappearance. It's highly likely they took Hata hostage to lure me, who's been missing, out into the open. In that case, I have no choice but to lay bait and make them crawl out themselves. Therefore, Leysa swung her axe, smashing everything in her path. The surrounding people fled in terror, seeking shelter. Suddenly, a whip lashed out, accompanied by a shout, wait! Leysa reflexively turned to look. The whip coiled around her axe, immobilizing her. Zahan appeared, blocking her way. Please stop. Leysa yanked her axe back with force and asked, who are you? Zahan placed a hand on his chest and said, first, I apologize for the rudeness. I am Zahan, a subordinate of the master. I've been ordered to escort the little. Lysha's letter. Upon hearing his name, Leysa frowned. Zahan, the master's executioner. Damn it, why is the master intervening now? The master, few knew his true identity, possessing power comparable to a holy knight and calling an executioner his subordinate, the true master of the underworld. The underworld was originally the territory of the Great Balan Empire. However, due to an unexpected curse, this land became barren, unable to support even a single living thing. Afterward, those who couldn't integrate into normal society gathered in this wasteland. With the master's intervention across generations, a massive underground economy quickly formed. Eventually, the underworld became neutral territory, a trading hub for dark forces across the continent, and only the master could maintain order here. Leysa silently panicked. That's all I know. Why is the master, who always observes from the sidelines, seeking me out? Seeing her silence, Zahan decided to speak. S.O. If you're willing, I'll guide you now. Leysa firmly refused, and finding my puppy is my top priority. Zahan continued. It's a related matter. Upon hearing this, her face darkened. Are you saying the master knows Hatu's whereabouts? Zahan frankly replied, the master has eyes and ears everywhere, so come with me. Finally, Leysa decided to follow him. As she walked on the tiled floor, she thought, no one knows the master's official residence, but everyone speculates about one place. The place with the most lush greenery, on the barren land where dust swirls year-round. And the moment you approach, without permission, death is the first thing to greet you. Before her now was a clean path surrounded by grass. Leysa looked around in surprise that on land where weeds can't even grow, there's a garden like this? Just how rich is this master? Next, she was led into a room with only a table and chairs. Zahan, standing by the door, suddenly spoke. "Milady, please speak with him." Leysa stared at the area behind the table and chairs. Curious, I asked the master behind that curtain. Suddenly, a deep, warm voice echoed. Succubus Leysa, this is the first time we've met face to face. As she entered the room, she thought, just being in the same space, I already feel immense pressure, but I mustn't waver. After approaching the curtain, the mysterious voice spoke again. Are you aware that your actions are causing everyone a great deal of trouble? Leysa said with distaste, skip the preamble, get to the point. The other side fell silent for a moment, then said, you're aware of the Holy Knights causing chaos in the underworld recently, yes? As you've seen, even the Holy Kingdom doesn't interfere if it's heresy. That's an unspoken rule. But the current situation is unprecedented. Hearing this, Leysa interrupted. So, the person continued, among the Holy Knights causing trouble here, there's a high-ranking knight connected to you. Leysa exclaimed in surprise, what? An image flashed in her mind. Among the high-ranking Holy Knights, only one person was connected to her. A familiar silhouette appeared. Hylan. Leysa crossed her arms, lost in thought. I've been wondering who was reckless enough to break the unspoken rule. Why Hylan of all people? Still, I might as well probe the master. Perhaps there's some useful information to be gleaned. After analyzing the situation, she spoke. It was him, wasn't it? I haven't heard the details, so I don't know. The master laughed loudly. Haha, don't tell me you don't know either. You left your mark in a discreet place on that holy night, didn't you? Hearing this, Leysa froze. It was definitely Hylan, but she still tried to argue. I'm just not certain. But you know the exact location of the mark. It seems our master here has a penchant for undressing holy knights. The voice from behind the curtain suddenly interrupted. Which, I'm quite fond of you. I want you to live a long life and cause plenty of interesting trouble for the underworld. So, don't be too curious about me. Leysa responded irritably. Don't order me around. The voice spoke softly, not an order advice. She frowned and replied, yes, of course. So, as long as I deal with that holy knight, everything's fine, right? If we're done here, I'm gonna find my dog. The voice echoed, all right, I hope you'll handle it well, so I don't have to call you a second time. As soon as she came out, Zahan said, I'll escort you out. But she refused, and no need. I don't have time. Regarding Hada's abduction, the culprit is most likely Hylan. Leysa thought as she cast a spell. Since I left a mark on Hylan, I can use it to find him immediately. Leysa then quickly teleported to another location. Upon arrival, she gasped, her eyes widening in horror. Seeing Hada lying on the floor, his body tightly bound, she couldn't help but cry out, Hada! From the side, Hylan spoke mockingly. Just for a beastman mutt, you've dug your own grave, witch. As she suspected, Hylan was the one who kidnapped Hada. Leysa was furious. This time, you've gone too far. What's your reason for doing this? Hylan calmly repeated. Reason? Reason, you say? That night, the full moon was high in the sky, just like tonight. You remember, don't you, witch? He stared intently at her and said, tonight, you must answer me. Why did you leave me that night? Leysa, hearing this, felt a pang of discomfort and thought, that night, 5 years ago, not long after I awakened my fairy powers, panic welled up inside her. How long must I keep running like this? That night, I was being chased by hunters as always. They frantically pursued me, yelling, she's cornered, don't be afraid. She's just a brat who can't control her power. That day, I had a strangely strong premonition that it might be my last. At that time, I thought I never wanted to be born a fairy. I just wanted to live a normal life. Just as she resolved to escape from them, she tripped over a rock. She tumbled to the ground, too exhausted to get up. The hunters, seeing this, shouted now, catch her. She trembled, tears streaming down her face as she gasped for breath. Am I going to die meaninglessly like this? Suddenly, something in front of her startled her awake, like seeing the light of her life. A boy, having just finished his sword practice, saw her. His eyes were pure, like the sea and the sky. Looking at him, I suddenly thought he radiates a divine aura to the point of incomprehension. If dying at my own hands is my fate, I'd rather die by this person's hand. At least, my body won't be disgraced. Thinking this, Leysa struggled to plead. Please, kill me. In a strange room, Leysa woke up with a start. She looked at her hands, still trembling uncontrollably, and wondered, when did I lose consciousness? Am I not still alive? She pulled back the thin blanket covering her and looked down at her legs. They were bandaged. She thought she would surely die. Or was she captured alive? The more she thought, the more frightened she became. Her whole body trembling, tears streaming down her face. Living like this is no different from being dead. Of course, death is terrifying, but a life that doesn't belong anywhere, always running to survive, does it even have meaning? It would have been better to die right then and there. Suddenly, the door opened. She flinched in fear. Leysa looked towards the door with a mixture of fear and hatred in her eyes. Hunter, however, it was Hyland standing outside, carrying a tray of food for her. In her hand was the sharp lampstand. If anyone approached, she would risk everything against them. However, when she saw him, she was extremely surprised. Why was he here? Could it be that he's on Hunter's side? Seeing her wary expression, Hyland calmly and gently placed the food down and said, "You must be hungry. Eat something." Her whole body still trembling with fear, she asked, "Are you with them?" He just sighed softly and affirmed no. Then Hyland gently picked up a piece of bread and said, "Here, it's safe." He took a bite to reassure her. Then he comforted her, "You can rest assured. We've run quite far. You don't have to worry for now." Leysa lowered her eyes, her heart full of fear. Could she trust him? Lately, her trust had always been betrayed. But hearing Hyland tell her to eat slowly, she wondered, trusting one more time probably wouldn't hurt. Would it? She quickly took the bread and ate ravenously, tears streaming down her face as she ate. Hick. Hyland sat beside her, saying nothing. He just sat there quietly, as if wanting to comfort her. After a while, Leysa had finished all the food he brought. Then, sitting on the bed, blushing with embarrassment, she unconsciously cried in front of someone she had just met. How embarrassing. How long must I repeat this miserable life? Seeing her despair, Hyland felt a pang of sympathy, unsure of what to say. Then he made a suggestion. Today is a good day for moon gazing. She looked at him with some confusion. Hyland continued, because it's a full moon. Hearing these words, Leysa looked up at the moon outside the window. She was a little surprised that, it's been a while since I looked up at the sky. The moon is so beautiful tonight that it gives me chills. I can look at and enjoy the beauty of the moon because I'm still alive. Then suddenly, she asked, "You saved me, didn't you?" He softly replied, "Yes." Then she softly said, "Thank you for helping me." At that very moment, perhaps Hyland was truly touched by her smile. She blushed as he turned away, saying, "I don't know what happened, but I won't harm you. You can rest assured. I'm a trainee knight of the Holy Kingdom." Hearing this, she was startled. The Holy Kingdom? Isn't that the place that deals with heretics mercilessly? He gathered his things and instructed, "Get some rest." Leysa thought to herself, he still doesn't know I'm a fairy. I have to escape before he finds out. If he knows I'm a fairy, I don't know what, but I might face something even worse. She muttered, "I have to escape quickly, but I don't have any strength left." Seeing her exhaustion, Hyland was a little puzzled. He gently approached and covered her with a blanket. Leysa blushed and spoke up, "What are you doing?" He softly reassured her, "Just sleep. I won't hurt you. Your eyes are already struggling to stay open." Hearing this, Leysa slowly closed her eyes, Trying to escape in this condition. I'll be caught sooner or later. He hasn't discovered it yet. I should rest and recover some strength. I'll sleep a little and then leave tomorrow morning. And throughout that night, Hyland sat beside her, watching over her. But her plan to escape before Hyland woke up was thwarted by a sudden fever. He had to stay by her side and take care of her. After being cared for all day, she finally regained some strength. Hyland asked, "Are you feeling better?" Leysa softly replied, "Yes." She thought to herself, I ended up owing him a favor. Escaping is out of the question now. Suddenly, she asked, "But why did you help me?" He closed his eyes briefly and replied, "Do you need a reason to help someone?" Abruptly, he said, "Hyland." She didn't understand what he was about to say and uttered, "What?" Then he said, "My name is Hyland. Just knowing my name is enough." Leysa then realized, your name, that. She pondered, should I tell him mine? He's someone who could become my enemy at any moment. Even so, he's the one who saved me. Telling him my name shouldn't be a problem. Thinking this, she was about to reveal her name. "My name is..." Suddenly, a noise outside the door interrupted their conversation. Leysa went to the window and looked down. This sound, could it be? Slave hunters. Have they found my trail? Damn it, why did I have to get a fever at a time like this? Hyland asked, "Are those the ones who did this to you?" Leysa replied, "Yes, they're slave hunters. You should leave me and run." He He unexpectedly said, "Why would I do that?" His words surprised her. "But aren't you scared? If they know you're hiding me, they won't leave you alone. Besides, there are 10 of them. Even if we run now, we'll be in danger." Suddenly, Hyland said, "There aren't 10 anymore. I took care of half of them yesterday." She was utterly shocked. He took care of the slave hunters? Someone with fairy powers, wasn't a match for them. And he, a trainee knight, confronted them without injury. While she was lost in thought, Hyland added, "So you don't need to worry." Leysa, still looking out the window, said, "If that's the case, then that's great. But even if you helped me, I have nothing to repay you with." Hearing this, Hyland fell silent for a moment. Then, he drew his sword and said, "I don't need you to repay me. I'll be right back. Wait for me." He said that, then went outside, leaving Leysa there in bewildered confusion. She thought to herself, he not only saved me, but he's also risking his own life. How can he say he doesn't need repayment? Is it really okay to leave him like this? But if I want to escape, now's my chance. If what Hyland said is true, he'll survive. After all, he's someone who will become a holy knight. Getting involved with a fairy like me won't bring anything good, because we are two existences that cannot be close. Instead of bringing danger to each other, leaving is the right decision. Thinking this, she looked back at the room one last time. With much reluctance, Leysa whispered, "That's right, I'm not wrong. I'm sorry. I hope you'll be safe." And then she left without a moment's hesitation. The room was now empty. After surviving thanks to Hyland's help, my years on a run finally ended. I was finally able to completely control my fairy powers. A ruthless fairy, yet beautiful as a rose, my infamy spread far and wide. And at some point, the world called me the witch. I lived freely, wielding my axe as I pleased, but sometimes I still wondered, how is that boy from that night? Is he still alive? Has he officially become a holy knight? Does he know I'm a fairy? Suppose, if he knew, would he regret saving me? Would he feel betrayed that I left him and ran away? Would he want to kill me now? These questions always lingered in my mind, and my curiosity made me wish, before I die, I could meet the boy who once helped me, even just once. But the reunion of two people walking on opposing paths wasn't romantic at all, but filled with a burning desire to kill each other. Back in the present, after waiting for a long time without hearing a reply, Hyland asked, "Why don't you answer? Can't you answer this time either?" Leysa calmly replied, "That's in the past. Even if I say anything, it won't change the fact that I ran away then. Did the noble inquisitor of heresy come to the underworld just to provoke me?" Hearing this, he suddenly said, "Then, why did you suddenly disappear recently?" Leysa was a little surprised to hear this question. Because of Hatai's kidnapping, I thought this would be the end of everything. Why ask such an unrelated question? Thinking this, she opened her mouth to reply that's. But just as she said this, Leysa suddenly covered her mouth with her hand. Panic filled her as she thought, "What's going on? Something's wrong with my body, this itchy, sneezy feeling." Similar to the first time she turned into a child, she looked at her glowing hand and wondered, what's suddenly happening? Could it be? Am I about to transform into a child again? I clearly took the medicine to return to my original form. So, why suddenly? No, absolutely not now. If I turn back into a child right here, Hyland will discover I was pretending to be a child. In this urgent situation, Leysa raised her hand and used her magic. This humiliation, I won't accept it. The magic freed Hadu from the surrounding chains. Suddenly, Hyland was obstructed by flower petals. Vision, yes. Leysa, now transformed into Chesa, conjured flower petals to distract him, thinking, retreat to the illusionary realm. Hada, having broken free, rushed towards her and cried out, "Lady Leysa?" Chesa wiped her brow with her hand. Phew, she sighed in relief. That was close. I need to enter the illusionary realm and return to my true form. Her body gradually began to grow back to its normal size. Leysa placed a hand on her chest, calculating, if the illusionary realm disappears, I'll revert to my child form. I have to resolve this inside. Suddenly, a chain pierced through the flowers. Hyland quickly pursued her, saying, "I don't know what you're thinking, but you're not escaping today, witch." Leysa crossed her arms, thinking, this is troublesome. Suddenly, Hate peeked out from behind her and shouted, "Hey, grumpy white-haired guy, don't bully Lady Leysa." Leysa turned and patted his head gently. "Thought I'm fine. I can handle this." Hada looked at her with worried eyes. "Lady Leysa." Then Leysa turned back and called out Hyland, "Let's not waste any more time. How about we make a deal? I'll return the holy relic you've been searching for so tirelessly. We'll end things here and go our separate ways." As she spoke, she pulled out a spear and planted it in the ground at Rubius's spear. I defeated the captain of the Holy Knights and obtained this spear as a trophy. The Holy King has been desperately trying to retrieve this holy relic, but he could never find it because I've kept it hidden within my illusionary realm. Occasionally, I've used it to tease the Holy Knights. Leysa looked up at him and demanded, "Take the spear and leave the underworld immediately. Return it, and you'll at least have a reason to be pardoned. If not, I'll crush this holy relic to dust." She thought to herself, not only did you drag the holy knights into the chaos of the underworld, but you also allowed the holy relic to be destroyed. Even you won't be able to escape punishment. You have to accept this deal, Hyland. Hyland parted his lips as if to speak. But after a moment, he remained silent. Leysa, suspicious, wondered, "Why are you so quiet?" "Well," he finally said, "you always resort to force to solve everything, and then you act out of character. This hasty approach is also strange." Hearing this, Leysa was surprised. "Huh?" Hyland slowly approached and asked, "Is someone after you?" "Only I have the right to apprehend you." Leysa turned away, replying, "It's just that I don't have time for this right now." She thought, pretending to be a child is tiring enough. Then Hyland heard her say, "So, leave me alone for now." Suddenly, he spoke. "Does this have anything to do with your child?" Leysa felt as if struck by lightning. "He still thinks that." She closed her eyes and sighed. "That's enough, Hyland." She tossed the spear towards him and continued, "Consider this deal accepted." Hyland, pushed out of the illusionary realm, gritted his teeth in frustration. Leysa. The next day, a voice called out from the Basilian family townhouse, "Captain, your tea." Leysa folded her arms arrogantly and said, "Give it here, I'll drink it." Thankfully, no one had discovered her going out last night, and everything had been resolved smoothly. Currently playing with Ijuin, Leysa took the glass of water and praised, "It's delicious." He smiled and replied, "Thank you, Captain." The three siblings had also returned safely this morning, and Hata's hat shop was temporarily closed. Ijuin offered a cookie. "Have a cookie too, Captain." Ka, beside them, wondered, "But why Captain? Isn't it usually Prince or Princess?" Leysa retorted, "I don't like that. I'm a captain." He indulged her. "All right, as you command." Suddenly, she looked into the glass, lost in thought. "It's good that we weren't discovered and returned safely. But there are a few problems." First, she began, "First, I took Hata's potion, but I've reverted back to my child form." Hata said it was a completed product. "So why did this happen?" "I suppose we'll have to wait until Hati makes another one to find out." She recalled his tearful face when he learned the potion had failed. "Hata will make another potion, milady." Leysa had comforted him. "It's all right." Back in the present, Ijuin exclaimed indignantly, "Hey, stop eating! If you eat them all, what will the captain eat?" Leysa, observing the two, suddenly glanced toward Kaha and thought, the second problem is Kaha. Ka, who suddenly went to Hata's hat shop. But the underworld isn't a place you can just casually enter and exit. There must be some purpose. Indeed, it seems the Basilian family is hiding more than I thought. She mused, "I can't be careless like last time. I'll investigate as soon as I have the chance. Seriously, I need to stay alert." Suddenly, Kaha exclaimed, "Oh, I smell a dog." Hearing this, Leysa became flustered. The smell of a dog? Wait a minute, could it be? From the nearby bushes, an animal leaped out like lightning. It curled into a ball and rolled out, startling the three siblings. Once it settled, a cute puppy appeared before everyone and barked woof. Leysa was completely petrified upon seeing the puppy. "Hata, why are you here?" While Leysa screamed internally, Ijuin leaned forward curiously. "A puppy." Leysa suddenly remembered, "Yesterday, when I closed the shop, I thought he was just joking." At the time, Hata had pleaded with wide eyes, "The shop is closed. I want to go with Lady Leysa." And she had replied, "Don't be silly." Now, Leysa had a headache. He actually came. "What do I do? What are you doing here, you troublesome kid?" She hugged Hata and whispered, "What are you planning?" But he only barked woof. Suddenly, Leysa felt a chill. I feel like I'm being watched." She turned around and, seeing the gazes of her two siblings, muttered, oh, this is bad." Panicked, Leysa whispered, "Hata, run." But in an instant, Ijuin was behind her. "That dog. You seem to really like it, don't you?" Kaha added, "Well, kids usually like things like puppies." Ijuin agreed, "Right? It looks dirty, but it'll be fine after a bath, right?" A moment later, Kaha asked, should we keep the dog?" Ijuin, standing beside him, replied, "Let's do it." Only Leysa, trapped between the two, was panicking internally. Wait a minute. Could it be they want to adopt Hata? While she was in a state of shock, Hata remained oblivious. Hata barked woof. Even after being thoroughly bathed and adorned with a pretty bow around his neck, he happily barked woof. He ran around excitedly, finally able to stay with Lady Leysa, while Leysa just watched. How'd Hata get into this house? A few minutes earlier, Kian had looked at her and asked, "Leysa, what is that?" Ijuin, standing behind him, said, "Little sis wants to adopt that puppy, father." Ka, standing next to them, looked surprised. They've already gotten close. Leysa could only hug Hata and stammer, "A puppy." She thought to herself, "Please say no, Kian." Kian paused for a moment. Then, he gave a bright smile. If Chisa wants to keep it, then we'll keep it. However, you have to like father more than the dog. Upon hearing this, Chisa thought in defeat. I can't believe Kian actually allowed it. Asterisk, well, it's already happened. Might as well consider him another ally. Asterisk Hata suddenly barked, but Lady Lakigia, she replied, "Umph." Then, she heard Hata ask, have you prepared for the banquet? Hata also received an order to make children's hats from the tailor shop that specializes in Basilian clothing. Chisa suddenly remembered. Asterisk, oh, come to think of it, during our last meal, Kian mentioned that the upcoming banquet would be held at the Ibriel family estate. It's about time for a fitting, but I haven't heard anything about it. Did something happen? Asterisk. A few hours later, Aijuan suddenly exclaimed, this is terrible. This is definitely an insult to the Basilian people. What is it now? Kaha asked while chewing his food. Aijuan angrily replied, the outfits delivered today. You saw them too. Kaha responded, I thought they were fine. Just wear them and go. Hearing this, Aijuan became furious. What are you talking about? You wanted to wear those rags. Clearly, someone swapped our outfits midway. Kaha calmly said, hey, you're overreacting. But Aijuan wouldn't let it go that they're completely different from the samples. While the two of them bickered, Chisa ate silently and thought, there's a problem with this, huh? Aijuan suddenly threw something at Kaha and yelled, how can we wear that? My sister has to wear a dress. Do you want our little sister to be looked down upon at the banquet wearing rags? Kaha finally spoke up. Little sis being looked down upon is unacceptable. But according to the schedule, we don't have time for new outfits. How about compensating with accessories? I know a pretty good hat shop. Aijuan asked, what? Where? Kaha looked at him and replied, a shop in the underworld. I went there before. It's a bit chaotic. It's Hata's hat shop. Chisa, who was drinking water, spat it out. Wiping her mouth, she thought, asterisk, why that shop? And he's so casually talking about the underworld with Aijuan. What exactly is the connection between the underworld and the Basilian people? Asterisk, anyway, the shop is closed now, so if we stay put, things will be resolved, right? A moment later, Aijuan sighed and ran a hand through his hair. There are only a few days left. We can fix him up a bit. Tomorrow, we just need to find hats and accessories. This is the Basilians' first debut in high society. I don't want anyone looking down on us. I'll definitely resolve this. The next day, Aijuan grumbled as he opened the door and walked in. This is truly unbearably rustic. It's a good thing I was the one who chose the fabric. Otherwise, it would all be in the trash. Chisa, walking beside him, suddenly thought, like Kaha said, the outfits are alright but not quite right. For a first appearance in high society, Aijuan wants everything to be perfect, so it's understandable he's upset. Of course, it seems like Aijuan's the only one in the house who cares about this. Chisa watched Aijuan meticulously adjusting the clothes, adding lace here and there. At that moment, she remembered that from their first meeting, she could sense Aijuan's fondness for beautiful things. Back then, Aijuan had stared at her and exclaimed, I've never seen anything as beautiful as myself. Chisa wondered. He also insisted on using an umbrella every day for fear of sunburn. How could a child raised in the gloomy snake mansion, without a single beautiful thing, develop such a love for beauty? Thinking this, she approached him and called out, brother. Aijuan turned around, smiling. Yes, Chisa? She asked directly, why do you like beautiful things so much? Aijuan rested his chin on his hand and said, let me see. Now, I find joy in pursuing beauty, but at first, I did it because I didn't want to look like a motherless child. Before, when my mother passed away, back then, I didn't understand what death meant, so I thought she just disappeared. Little Aijuan spoke sadly. Brother, I can't find mother. Kaha says he can't smell her scent anymore. Benzian, at the time, could only silently stroke his head, as if comforting him. After that, Benzian also left. Aijuan weakly called out, brother. He thought resentfully. Mother suddenly disappeared. Brother doesn't even answer me, and father just sits outside all the time. What are they all doing? Why isn't anyone looking for mother? Seeing Aijuan turn around, Kaha asked, hey, where are you going? Aijuan replied casually, to find mother. But Kaha's voice rang out from behind him. We've already looked. We can't find her. Aijuan angrily turned around and yelled, because we can't find her. That's why I have to go look, you idiot. I'll go look myself. I'll do what I want. Seeing Aijuan's insistence, Kaha sighed. Then he replied, I'll go too. And so, Kaha and I went out every day to search for mother. Not long after, guests came to visit the snake mansion. While Aijuan was wandering around searching, Mother, where are you? Suddenly, a few voices reach his ears. Did you see what those kids are wearing? Oh dear, the way those Basilian young masters are walking around is truly... Well, they're from a distinguished family in the East, but it seems they have no shame. Well, they've had a difficult time recently. We should feel sorry for them. It's understandable. It's because they don't have a mother that they've turned out like that. After hearing this, Aijuan repeated in his mind, because they don't have a mother, that's why they've turned out like that. He looked at his reflection in the window. Then he softly cried out, ah. Suddenly, Kaha appeared and asked, hey, why do you look so lost? Aren't you going to look for mother? Aijuan suddenly burst into tears. Wah? Sob. He slumped down and cried out, "It's not because I don't have a mother. It's not." Ka, seeing this, panicked. "Hey, what's wrong with you all of a sudden?" Aijuin trembled as he said, "I have a mother. I hate them." Sob. Aijuin thought to himself, "Because of that, I never want to be looked down upon by others, nor my family, ever again." After recounting this to Chisa, Aijuin concluded, "So, in short, that's why I care about looking good. Simpler than you thought, huh?" Actually, it started as a sense of obligation, but not anymore. Once I started paying attention to it, I found it enjoyable. Now, Chisa, your family too. I want you to wear the most beautiful dress. He poked her cheek reassuringly. So, don't worry and trust me. This is the first time I've told this story. I haven't even told Kaha. This is our little secret, okay? A moment later, Chesa spoke up. "I'll go back to my room." Aijuin asked why, not enjoying the conversation anymore. She hesitated. "It's just, I'm tired, so I'll go to bed early." Hearing that, he immediately said, "All right, let me walk you back to your room. Good night, little sister." After he left, Chesa sat on her bed, lost in thought. Behind a hobby is a whole story. Why did I ask? Now I feel restless. Suddenly, Hada spoke up. "Lady Lakigia, something is very strange." Chesa immediately asked, "What is it?" Hada then explained, "The children's hat I delivered isn't there. Because I thought you would wear it, I put a lot of effort into making it." Chesa recalled Aijuin's words. Clearly, someone snatched our outfits midway. At this point, she grew suspicious. Could it be that Aijuin's suspicions are true? Hada's skills are so good that even the most high-end fashion houses in the capital seek him out. There's no way Hada's product will be rejected due to quality or design. I had planned to ignore the banquet, but to dare steal my things, how impudent. After considering, Chesa ordered, "Hada, contact Mia, clothing store." Shall we reopen the shop for a bit? The next evening, a voice rang out, "Chesa, we're going now. I'll choose a beautiful hat to bring back. You be good, okay?" Seeing the two about to leave, Chesa raised her hand to stop them. "Wait, you two." Kaha and Aijuin simultaneously turned back. She gently suggested, "Can I go with you today?" Aijuin exclaimed in surprise. "To the underworld? No way. It's very dangerous there. Let's go somewhere else next time, okay?" Chesa confidently replied, "What's wrong? You'll protect me." Hearing this, Kaha responded, "Well, that's true, but taking the little one to the underworld is a bit." Chesa said sadly, "I really want to go." She decided to use her ultimate move. "I want to go with you guys too." Seeing her acting cute, Kaha and Aijuin's hearts melted. So cute. Adorable. Kaha, his reasoning clouded by her cuteness, said, "Take her along." Aijuin immediately yelled upon hearing this. "Are you crazy?" Kaha hurriedly explained, "We've never taken the little one out before, and besides, letting her try on the hats directly will help us choose the right one." Despite this, Aijuin remained worried, but the first time we take her out, we're taking her to the underworld. Meanwhile, Chesa secretly rejoiced. Yes, the strategy worked. If I go to the underworld with these twins, I might be able to learn about the connection between Basilian and the underworld. While Chesa was scheming outside, Kaha was still trying to persuade his younger brother. What? It's a true Basilian experience. Aijuin, hearing this, held his head and sighed. Seeing this, Chesa crossed her arms smugly, thinking, "I must crush the arrogance of those who dare steal my things." Finally, they went together. Sitting in the carriage, Aijuin instructed, "Us being together is a secret, understand?" Kaha chimed in, "Absolutely don't tell anyone." Chesa nodded, "Yes." A moment later, a pair of feet stepped out of the carriage and announced, "We're here." On the deserted road, a cloaked figure walked silently, followed by two figures moving stealthily. At Hata's hat shop, Aijuin's voice rang out. "This is the hat shop you were talking about?" Kaha softly replied, "Yeah." Aijuin, while holding Chesa, said from the outside, "It looks like the most ordinary shop in the underworld, but the accessories are quite lovely." Kaha looked around and asked, "Is there no one here? Are they not open today?" Suddenly, Hada appeared and called out, "Welcome, customers." Seeing him, Kaha asked, "Oh, are you the shop owner?" Hada smiled and replied, "Yes, please feel free to browse." Chesa, seeing Kaha focus on sniffing the air, thought to herself, he probably won't notice that Hada is the puppy from home, right? Just in case, I've used my fairy magic to mask his scent. But Kaha suddenly realized something about him. He looks like a dog. Aijuin, seeing his brother's rudeness, yelled, "Hey." Kaha explained, "I don't know why, but he looked a lot like the dog back home." Aijuin angrily raised his fist. "That's true, but it's weird to let him hear you say that. So shut up." Chase aside, kids really do have sharp eyes. Then Aijuin cleared his throat and said, "Anyway, shop owner, do you have hats for grown-up gentlemen, teenagers, and hats and accessories for small children?" Hearing this, Hada immediately replied, "Yes, of course, I have hats for babies and accessories too. Would you like to try some on?" Aijuin looked at Chesa excitedly. All right then." And so, one hat after another was placed on her head. Aijuin, seeing her in each one, exclaimed, "Cute, cute." Kaha agreed, "Little one, it suits you very well." Hada couldn't help but chime in. So adorable. Since the little one is already beautiful, anything looks good on her. Hearing the compliments, Aijuan became even more cheerful. Fufu, the shop owner has a good eye? I'll buy them all. Cheza, seeing the scene, was puzzled. These kids are acting as if they're the ones being praised. At the same time, Aijuan generously paid and praised. The craftsmanship here surpasses even the famous artisans in the capital. Include ours as well. Hada scratched his head sheepishly. I'm so glad you like our products. I'll have them delivered to your home. Suddenly, Kaha looked at him and said, but shop owner, Hada's startled replied, yes? Kaha's curious voice rang out. Does this hat shop also make medicine? Hearing this, Hada exclaimed in alarm, yes. Cheza, standing beside them, was also bewildered. Why did he stop himself? Kaha didn't miss a beat. I happened to see the inside of the shop last time, and I saw a medicine bottle labeled Fairy Child or something. Hada decided to play dumb. I don't know what you're talking about. Aijuan, standing behind them, observed everything. He couldn't hold back any longer and burst out. What's been wrong with you this whole time? Why are you suddenly looking for a fairy child? We already have one right here. Don't bother the shop owner with that nonsense. From now on, he'll be making hats for us. Seeing Aijuan's anger, Kaha trembled. Ugh, Cheza thought he even discovered the laboratory back then. We were almost exposed. It's a good thing Aijuan is here. The hats and accessories are done. Time to move before we're questioned further. After receiving the signal from Cheza, Hada spoke up. I wonder if you young masters are interested in clothing. Kaha uttered. Hada continued. I know of a rather good clothing store. Hearing this, Aijuan's eyes lit up. A clothing store. Hada replied, yes, it's called Mia's Clothing Store. If you young masters are interested, I'll show you the way. Aijuan exclaimed, great. He secretly thought, a recommendation from someone with such refined taste, we definitely have to go. Cheza, hearing this, also felt smug. Of all the shops she knew, Mia's was the best. The problem was, a little while later, they arrived at Mia's Clothing Store. As soon as they stepped inside, a playful voice rang out, oh my, little nobles appearing in the underworld's clothing store? Such innocent children probably don't know how terrifying this place is. In the name of the underworld, I won't let you get away. Cheza was already used to this. She thought to herself, Mia, the shop owner, is so unusual. Every time we meet, she acts like a weirdo. She recalled Mia's embarrassing pose. I'll show you brats the cruelty of the underworld. At times like these, Cheza just wanted to cover her face. Acting like a beast person, it's so cringe-worthy. Sure enough, both Kaha and Aijuan shared the same sentiment. She seems a bit unhinged. Should we just leave? Upon hearing this, Mia removed her fake cat ears and said, how rude. Aijuan, about to leave, turned back and said, even so, the craftsmanship here looks pretty good. What do you think, Cheza? Cheza, being asked, replied, I like it. So, Aijuan turned to Mia and said, I'd like to order outfits for a party 5 days from now. We don't have enough time to have new clothes made. Could you alter some existing ones? Mia hesitated. 5 days is a bit tight. However, young masters, let me see your faces. Aijuan, intrigued, replied, so suddenly? But all right. With that, all three removed their hoods, revealing their beautiful faces. Even Mia couldn't resist that, oh my goodness, what insane beauty. So cute. Every single one of you is gorgeous. You should have taken off your hoods sooner. This is igniting my passion. Although it's a bit rushed, I'll definitely finish by the morning of that day. The design will be like this. This young master would suit this style. Kaha, listening intently, suddenly felt someone watching. He turned to look, but saw no one. Kaha muttered, was I mistaken? A little while later, Mia's voice called out, beautiful young masters, please be careful on your way back. Aijuan stepped out of the shop cheerfully. Phew, that was a great outing. Let's hurry back before older brother finds out. Suddenly, Kaha sensed danger. He swung his sword, cutting something, and shielded the other two. Aijuan turned and looked down to see what it was. This is an iron net. Voices rang out from the surroundings. What the? That bastard cut the net with just a sword. What are you doing? Shoot him with arrows. No, the merchandise will be damaged if hit by arrows. Cheza, sitting in Aijuan's arms, sighed. Too, she thought, that explains why it was so quiet. This is more like the underworld. After all, the underworld is a gathering place for scum. 3 ugly men approached, sneering. We're in luck. It's been a while since we had such a big score. It's only natural for children wandering around a place like this to run into trouble. One of them spoke up. Where did you cute young masters come from? If we sell you at the slave market, I'll set a pretty high price. Hearing this, Cheza recognized them. Slave hunters. The notorious hunters of mystical races. Those who target humans are just the amateur. Someone of this level is definitely no match for Kaha. Aijuan suddenly exclaimed in annoyance, finding it troublesome to encounter such a situation while out with his younger sister. Kaha, don't let the blood splatter on her. My little sister is here. Kaha immediately replied, got it. Following that, he brandished his sword. After readying himself, he said, close your eyes, kiddo. Seeing his confident demeanor, the hunters became frightened. But the archer yelled, snap out of it. He's just a brat. What are you hesitating for? Attack. Before he could finish his sentence, a sword rested against his throat. In an instant, Kaha had closed the distance. The archer cried out in alarm. Kaha raised his other sword, intending to stab downwards. Suddenly, a voice called out, stop. A pair of feet hurriedly approached. Jahan appeared and announced, Master doesn't want any more chaos. Seeing the situation, Cheza was surprised. What? Why is Jahan here? It's just a minor issue. Why would someone of Jahan's stature get involved? The hunter, recognizing Jahan, said sheepishly, I didn't know Lord Jahan was patrolling around here. We got a little greedy. We probably disturb you with the noise. We'll leave now. Please speak to Master. On our behalf. Seeing the matter resolved, Jahan sighed softly. Then, he looked at Kaha and said, I told you causing a commotion would lead to trouble. Kaha sheathed his sword and replied, yes, sorry. But they attacked first. Aijuan and Cheza listened intently as Jahan declared, if it were just the two of you, I wouldn't say anything, but you have someone with you. This time, I won't let it slide. At this point, Cheza suddenly realized, this atmosphere, could it be? Do all three of them know each other? Jahan, Master's highest-ranking subordinate, this doll-like, emotionless man is the executioner of the underworld, wielding a whip that can transform into a sharp hook. If one is unfortunate enough to face him, the outcome is usually death. In the underworld, he is a symbol of calamity, the embodiment of misfortune and bad luck. Cheza began to ponder. Commotions like this are common on the streets. Yet, Master sent Jahan to intervene. Moreover, even she had only met Jahan once. Yet the two of them seemed so close. Cheza watched as Jahan gently said, please be more careful next time. And Kaha scratched his head, replying, I know. Witnessing this, she secretly suspected, clearly, Basilian has close ties to the underworld. Just who is Basilian? Suddenly, Cheza noticed Jahan observing her. Their eyes met, and Cheza awkwardly said, hello. Kaha, hearing this, scolded her loudly, hey, my sister just greeted you. You shouldn't casually greet strangers. Cheza looked at him and wondered why not. She thought to herself, they've been talking casually with each other this whole time. Suddenly, Jahan approached and said, it's an honor to be greeted by you. I am Jahan. Hearing this, she replied, I'm Cheza Basilian. Jahan calmly said, it's a pleasure to meet you, but I hope we don't meet again. This piqued Cheza's curiosity. Normally, people would say, see you again. Do people in the underworld think differently? She wondered, so she asked, why? Do you hate seeing me again? Jahan shook his head, but it's not like that. It's because meeting someone like me brings misfortune. Having just heard him, Cheza immediately thought, for some reason, I deeply sense his self-hatred. I never thought Jahan was such a person. It makes sense, though. Jahan is an outcast, even in the underworld. That's why he's always alone. Like me, who was once scorned as the daughter of a mad fairy. Because of that, I became a loner. And I used to hate myself. Pausing for a moment, she decided to speak up, but I'm okay. Next time, I still want to greet you. In her heart, she thought, both you and I are truly unfortunate, aren't we? Seeing her radiant appearance and hearing her words, Jahan didn't know how to respond. After a moment of silence, he quickly turned around. Then Jahan said, it's late now. The three of you should go back. After saying that, he immediately left. Cheza watched his lonely figure for a long time. That night, in a small alley, a scream echoed, ah. The hunter from earlier was now fearfully clasping his hands together and trembling. Please, spare me. I was wrong. But Jahan was determined to punish him. He swung his whip, and blood splattered along with a scream of agony. Afterward, Jahan stood in a daze, thinking for the first time, someone smiled at me like that. But then he suddenly recalled the insult from the past. Get away, monster. I don't like you. Don't come near me. Remembering this made him feel self-conscious. His hands clenched tightly. Oh no. Someone of low status like me, meeting such a noble lady is already frightening enough. Even so, I want to see that smiling face again. It truly is my greed. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind him. So you've greeted the little one. Jahan immediately turned and bowed. That you've arrived, master. Kian suddenly asked, super cute, right? Jahan knelt and replied, yes, master. Kian then continued, I wonder who dared to cause trouble. Just some common slave hunters. Jahan quickly spoke up, I apologize. Kian gently placed a hand on his head. Honestly, I don't blame you. Leave the finishing blow to me. As soon as he finished speaking, the remaining hunter began to tremble violently. Guh. After everything was settled, Kian asked, have you found any trace of the witch? Jahan quickly reported. After the incident at the mansion, she vanished without a trace. Hearing this, he exclaimed, she's not the type to live a quiet life. Even a noble heretical inquisitor had to personally welcome her. She's no ordinary fairy. I'll have a use for her soon. Investigate the witch's whereabouts thoroughly for me. Meanwhile, at the Basilian household, Kaha and Aijuan thought to themselves, we're dead. Chase aside, I knew this would happen. A powerful voice boomed, Ka, Aijuan. Benzian sternly asked, what were you two thinking? Aijuan timidly replied, it's just, I thought it would be nice to go out with my sister. We've never gone out together before. Ka, standing next to him, agreed, that's right. Benzian questioned, going out but to the underworld? She's just an ordinary child. You should have been more careful. Kaha retorted, but I was confident I could protect her, so I took her. Benzian immediately interrupted. That's not the point. He sighed, that child isn't a Basilian. Chesa was startled when she heard this. Ka, upon hearing it, immediately said, hey, what are you talking about? Aijuan hastily objected, but she's our little sister now. Besides, she's listening. Benzian frowned and said, enough. Am I wrong? That child isn't blood-related. She's just an outsider. Both of you, stop talking nonsense. Chesa thought sadly, he's right. Benzian intended to kick me out from the beginning. She recalled his words, so don't get too attached because I'll quickly send you away. Especially since this banquet is the first introduction of the Basilian family members. Benzian wants to get rid of me before that happens, even though we cared for each other and shared some affection. But we were never a real family. Clenching her fists, Chesa told herself, I have to leave immediately. Yet she thought about attending the banquet like a fool. Right, I was so stupid, wanting to kill Count Rudin because he insulted the Basilian family. Preparing a banquet outfit so the Basilians wouldn't be looked down upon. None of it has anything to do with me. When I saw Benzian's distressed look, I thought he was the sentimental one. But it turns out I'm the childish one, acting like a Basilian just because of a little affection. Chesa looked at Benzian's cold expression. Suddenly, haunting words from the past flooded back in her memory. What does an orphan like you know? Get lost. Remembering this made her feel suffocated. Chesa gave a wry smile. No matter how lonely you are, you shouldn't have done that. You got too into character. Right, just stick to the original plan. Get a grip and prepare to leave. Based on the current situation, the Basilians are involved with the underworld, and there are too many suspicious points. I have to finish investigating Count Basilian's family before the banquet. When Benzian kicks me out, I just need to disappear with Hada. I'll completely leave this family and return to my original self. A few minutes later, Chesa stood in front of the door and thought dejectedly. Becoming a child made my thoughts childish too. I'm so gloomy. A sigh echoed in the dark night. Ugh. Chesa walked listlessly forward. Suddenly, a distortion appeared in her shadow. Chesa thought, this magic power. In an instant, Kien appeared before her. Kien, as soon as he saw her, he smiled and said, hello, Chesa. My daughter, what are you doing? Chesa suddenly realized the smell of blood. He's just gotten back from somewhere. At the same time, she replied, nothing. Kien poked her nose playfully and teased. What's with that look on your face? Did Benzian scold you badly? Chesa stopped his hand and replied, no. Inwardly, she thought, so he knows we went to the underworld. Then Kien's voice rang out. Did you have fun outside today? Chesa softly replied, no. Kien looked at her with gentle eyes. He suddenly lifted her up and said, you got scolded by your brother like this. So how about I try playing the role of comforter? Let's go see the flowers together. With that, a source of magic power enveloped them. In an instant, Chesa opened her eyes and realized she was in a different place. She started to look around, then thought to herself, this is the rose garden. It's filled with the scent of roses. So fragrant. While she was closing her eyes and relaxing, Kien asked, so, are you feeling any better? Chesa startled, thinking, oh, I unconsciously got lost in the fragrance of the flowers. At the same time, she asked, Father, but where are we? Kien gently replied, the royal garden. Hearing this, Chesa was immediately taken aback. What? This is allowed too. He noticed her expression and calmly explained, to be precise, it's the private garden. There are no guards now. You can look around freely. Now, Chesa felt relieved at I see. Kien picked a rose and placed it in her hair. After admiring it for a moment, he smiled brightly. Just as I thought, it suits you, my daughter. Chesa silently looked at the beautiful scenery before her. Suddenly, Kien asked, are you heartbroken because your brother scolded you? But I also don't want you to go there because there are many bad people. Hearing this, Chesa became curious. Have you been there, father? Kien seemed surprised. Do you mean the underworld? She replied, yes. A moment later, Kien asked, why are you curious about that? She pouted and said, everyone goes there except me. Kien just laughed. Seeing this, Chesa clutched her skirt tightly and said, but you don't have to tell me, because I'm not a Basilian. Bathed in the moonlight, her face gradually became sad. Kien didn't know how to answer her. Seeing the silence, Chesa thought to herself, I was going to sulk a little, but I accidentally told the truth. A few seconds later, Kien picked her up. So you're really sad, huh? No wonder. Chesa denied it. No, I'm not. After considering, he instructed, Then only you can know about this, Cheza. Kien whispered in her ear. Your brothers are helping me. Ah, of course, it's nothing dangerous, so don't worry. Actually, I'm doing some work in the underworld, to be precise, managing and caring for the people there, just like I care for you. Hearing this, Cheza was startled. All the pieces fit. Kien, the one who received the report about the enchantress, holds information that only people of the underworld would know, and the master who knows about my mark. She remembered the master's words. You left your mark on a hidden spot on that holy knight's body. You're not going to say you don't know, are you? The day Kien and my 3 brothers left the mansion, because an important matter, was also the day the underworld fell into danger, because of Hyland. When I went with them, I realized this wasn't the first or second time they had been to. The underworld, even Zion, the master's subordinate, had a strangely respectful attitude towards the twins. After piecing things together, Cheza began to tremble, thinking, no way. Is Kien the master? Does that mean the person I've been deceiving this whole time is the master of the underworld? I'm doomed. If the master wants, taking my life is a simple matter. Before I'm discovered, I have to get out of here. After returning to her bedroom, Cheza continued to worry. This is really serious. The person I've been fooling with my childish appearance is none other than the master. If I'm discovered, I'll definitely die. Moreover, the underworld is the only place I consider safe for myself. If even that place turns its back on me, I really have nowhere left to go. That's right, Benzian's plan is to send me away before the banquet. I'll use that to escape. Suddenly, Hada ran in and exclaimed, Miss Lechizia. Hada had finished the hat and returned. Cheza, with dark circles under her eyes, looked at him and said in a low voice, Hada was startled. After Cheza announced, we have to run away. Hada was even more surprised. What? The next morning, a voice rang out in the Basilian mansion. Very good. Dance practice is over. Now we will begin with etiquette lessons. Cheza stealthily stood at the door observing and thought, good, it's the middle of class. The twins won't pay attention to me. Even if we leave, we have to erase all information. Last night, I searched the entire mansion and castle. The only place left is the Basilian territory filled with monsters. In the blink of an eye, Cheza and Hado were in the Black Forest. As soon as they landed, Cheza spoke up. This forest gives me the creeps. Hado agreed. It does. Walking to a grassy area, she set Hada down and looked around, not to mention the demonic energy all over the place. We are magical creatures stronger than humans, so there shouldn't be a problem. If humans stay here too long, they'll be tormented by hallucinations. That's when Kien looked like he was out of it after returning from the forest, probably because of the demonic energy. Suddenly, Hada shouted in fear. Miss Lechizia, over there. Cheza was surprised. Hatu continued, trembling. There's a monster over there. Cheza replied. The rumors of monsters are true then. She wondered, Kien, what on earth were you doing in a place like this? Cheza approached to observe the monster. As she looked at it, she thought, just walk past it? It seems like it doesn't want to attack, and it's better if no one bothers us. Cheza clasped her hands together and decided, plenty of time, let's investigate quickly and get out of here. She whispered softly into her palms, and when she stretched her hands out, countless magical butterflies fluttered around. Gradually, the butterflies flew in an orderly pattern. A few seconds later, Cheza saw a butterfly flashing above her head. Seeing that, she said, I've already found something. Let's follow it. The butterflies led her to a brighter part of the forest. Cheza and Hado were completely surprised by the surrounding scenery. Everything seemed full of life, unlike the gloomy forest from before. The scenery was so beautiful that Cheza exclaimed, wow. She thought to herself, I didn't expect there to be a place like this inside the Black Forest. And the thing in the middle, there is a coffin. She approached and said, this is, after looking, she suddenly cried out, ah. In her mind, she thought, I know, this is the late Countess's coffin. From the fresh flowers to the well-maintained landscape, it seems Kien still looks after this place very regularly. But why is the Countess's coffin placed here? While she was thinking, the butterfly flew closer as if wanting her attention. Cheza followed the butterfly's flight path and wondered, is there something else in this space? The butterfly flew to a tree trunk with neat writing on it. Cheza stood up and looked around, realizing there was writing hidden in the surrounding trees. She ran toward the tree, wondering, what does it say? Arriving there, Cheza softly read the lines aloud. The illusionary realm is a separate mental space reflecting the subconscious of the fairies. Cheza silently realized, this is the experimental record regarding the fairies. Is there no way to artificially create the fairies' illusionary realm? Reading up to this point, Cheza frowned. Even from hundreds of years ago, from ancient times, tried injecting fairy blood into male bodies, but failed. Injecting into female bodies showed a reaction, but it only lasted for a short time. It seems fairies only exist within female bodies. New research is needed. Reading this, Leysa realized this wasn't kin in the name of God. This was an experiment report written by the Holy Kingdom. Suddenly, she wondered, but that's strange. Even though they sometimes act like hypocrites, the Holy Kingdom values order and justice. In their eyes, fairies are heretical beings that need to be dealt with, not captured for experimentation. Moreover, they're planning to bring the fairy queen's crown outside. Even if it was for experimentation, the crown would surely be broken into hundreds of pieces and used as materials. More importantly, that two-faced perfectionist is a heresy inquisitor. With that position, he can access almost all of the Holy Kingdom's information. If he knew about the fairy experiments, he absolutely wouldn't stand idly by. After analyzing, Leysa began to speculate. So, the person secretly directing this experiment is highly likely a cardinal or the Holy King. Leysa clenched her fists and cursed. Those disgusting bastards. The illusionary realm is the fairies' main ability, relying on spiritual power. With a strong will, their spirits won't collapse. But the fairy who gave birth to me was completely insane. Perhaps it was because she had to endure all kinds of pain, like an animal being drained of its blood, that her spirit collapsed like that. Suddenly, Leysa seemed to lose control. Why could those God-believers do such a thing? Leysa didn't notice her power gradually radiating outwards. At this moment, she only wanted revenge. Hada also realized the situation wasn't right. He yelled as if to wake Leysa, "Lady Leysa." After that, Leysa gradually withdrew her power. She spoke, "I'm fine, just a little surprised." After calming down and considering, Leysa silently concluded, Basilian isn't the family experimenting on fairies. On the contrary, it seems Kien's stance is similar to mine. The rumor was that the three great families conducted experiments on fairies. Perhaps while Kien was gathering information about fairies, the rumor was misconstrued. Suddenly, Leysa wondered, but what is Kien's purpose in gathering information about fairies? Does it have anything to do with the fairy queen's crown he wants? At this moment, Hatu approached and asked, "Lady Leysa, if this report is true, do we have to investigate the Holy Kingdom now?" Leysa hesitated for a moment and then replied, "Yes, because there's no other way." She felt a headache. A person considered a heretic like me has to step into the Holy Kingdom myself. How troublesome. If she continued to participate in the prayer session as this intruder, she would eventually be discovered by Kien, and it was highly likely her head would be separated from her neck. The more she thought about it, the more discouraged she became. Leysa decided, "First, let's return to the mansion and think about it later." Hada, hearing this, responded, "Yes." As soon as she finished speaking, Leysa used magic to bring them both back, but one thing was certain. Now, I have no reason to stay in Basilian anymore. That afternoon, in Benzian's office, when he heard a knock on the door, Benzian said, "Come in." Leysa gently stepped in and said, "Hello, I have something to tell you." Benzian looked at her for a long while. Then he turned around and asked, "What's wrong?" Leysa hesitated, stammering, when do I have to leave?" She thought to herself, now that I know who's behind the fairy experiments, I have no reason to stay in Basilian. Benzian plans to send me away anyway, so I'll just go along with it. A few seconds later, Benzian's voice rang out, 2 days from now, early in the morning. Leysa felt a pang of sadness. 2 days, that's so soon, she thought. Well, it's no use trying to convince a child. Saying I don't want to go will only cause unnecessary trouble. This decision is for the best. Seeing her expression, Benzian said, "You can take anything you want with you. Money, jewels, anything." Leysa was flustered. Seeing her hesitate, he insisted, "Even if you get greedy and ask for the entire family fortune, I'll give it to you." But she was thinking, I don't need those things. After a moment of fidgeting, she picked up Hada. "I want to take the puppy with me," she said. Benzian asked, surprised, "Just him?" She replied, "Yes, having him is enough. I didn't bring anything when I came here anyway. Thank you, by the way. The Count and the young masters have all been very kind to me." Her adorable smile left Benzian speechless. He clenched his fist and repeated, "Really? Really just that?" Leysa responded blankly, "Yes." Suddenly, Benzian said, "You clearly have feelings for this place. Why don't you ask me to let you stay with the Count's family? If you think you've had a good time in Basilian, you should at least feel some regret or cry. But why? Why can you be so calm?" Leysa, seeing his face on the verge of tears, thought, what's this? Has he been pretending not to care all this time? Turns out he's grown attached. Then, Leysa replied, "What can I do? It's not like I can stay just because I want to. It's okay, I'm used to it." She thought to herself, these words are from the heart. Foster children at the orphanage are sent away after just a few months, so going back is a common occurrence. More than 10 years ago, when Leysa was little, she stood before the orphanage doors. Leysa reached out to open the door, but hesitated. She remembered her foster parents yelling, "How dare you dirty my carpet? I shouldn't have taken in trash like you. Get out." She cowered, thinking, How should I tell her? I have to go back because I made a mistake. The orphanage is struggling. Me going back will surely be a burden on her. While she was worrying, the door opened by itself. A woman appeared, calling her name, Leysa. The headmistress asked what. She hugged Leysa tightly. Then, she gently asked, "Why are you hurt like this? Why didn't you come back sooner?" Leysa whispered, "Teacher, I'm sorry for coming back, it's just..." The headmistress interrupted, "It's all right. Do you think I can't take care of you? If you don't want to, you don't have to be fostered anymore. Stay at the orphanage with me. If you still don't want to leave when you grow up, then you can become a teacher here. Because this is your home." Hearing these words, Leysa's tears welled up, and she cried like a child. I was a lucky child back then, but now I've become someone who can no longer see her again. Back in the present, Chase is startled, thinking, is it because the situation is similar that I'm remembering the past? At the same time, she said, "I'm really okay. I'm prepared." Benzian silently looked at her. Then he turned away and said, "I understand. So, 2 days from now, early in the morning, when the Count and the twins are out, leave through the main gate. Even if you leave, I'll make sure you have a comfortable life, so don't worry." Hearing this, Chesa thought, good. After I leave, I'll take the medicine and return to my adult form. The people in this mansion won't be able to find me. Kian adopted me to get the crown. I just need to manage until the prayer time is over. Then he probably won't look for me anymore. Right, ending things like this is fine. At this time, I still hadn't remembered that after coming to the Basilian mansion, my plans always failed. The next day, Chesa and Hado were resting their chins on the windowsill. From above, she looked down and thought, now I'm really going to leave this place. Well, I miss this garden. And the twins. Below, Kaha spotted her and called out, "Aw, little one." Aijuin gave a bright smile. Chesa, seeing the two of them, she felt a pang of sadness. It's a shame I can't properly say goodbye. Chesa waved back, thinking, even so, if the three of you continue to go in and out of the underworld, we'll be able to meet again. It's best not to run into Master Kian, though. In any case, I guess I want to check if everyone is doing well. Finally, the time promised with Benzian arrived. In the evening, a carriage was prepared and waiting for the order. Chesa was also ready to leave. Benzian sat down, gently adjusted her clothes, and instructed, right now, the three of them aren't home. Leaving at this hour, no one will notice you. She slightly lifted her skirt and bowed. Yes, I'll be going then. Thank you very much. Benzian didn't reply, but kept holding the suitcase and stood there frozen, which made her bewildered. Why aren't you saying anything? A moment later, he announced, I'll be going too. Chesa froze, She asked incredulously, yes, you're leaving home with me? Confusion swirled within her. What? Why so suddenly? Benzian didn't answer immediately, but looked at her for a moment. Then he slowly said, because I want to comfort you. I also want to try it once. Chesa was completely speechless. I wasn't crying. So why comfort me? Thinking that, she started making excuses, but you have work to do. Benzian smirked. Let's see about that. That damn old man can handle it himself. Hearing this, an indescribable feeling welled up inside her. What's gotten into this kid all of a sudden? Why is he being so frustrating at the last minute? Benzian, ignoring her attitude, continued to explain, he's always been dumping work on me. It's time he did things himself. Even if I'm the heir, he's still the Count. After listening, Chesa thought, oh yeah, thinking about it, he's right. He's been bottling up a lot. Then, she asked, so you'll come with me? Benzian replied, yeah, until the little saint's prayer begins. Eventually, the Count will find you, but if I'm with you, he won't be able to catch you until the prayer. Chesa cupped her chin and pondered, that's true. Since Suzukian is also the master of the underworld, he'll use every means to find me. Besides, I still haven't figured out why I revert back to a child's form even after taking the adult transformation potion. And Hada needs time to remake the potion. There's no other way. We'll have to be allies for now. After considering, Chiesa agreed, I'll be counting on you then. As soon as she finished, the carriage started rolling. Sitting in the carriage and looking out, Chiesa thought to herself, I feel a strange familiarity with that townhouse. Leaving like this, I suddenly feel a pang of nostalgia. Looking over, she saw Benzian holding a strange object. Curious, she wondered, what is that? It looks like a magical device. It also looks like a detonator. At this point, Chiesa suddenly thought of the worst-case scenario, Benzian blowing up the Basilian mansion. But then she sighed, comforting herself. There's no way, right? Benzian wouldn't be that crazy. Just as she thought this, a loud boom echoed from the direction of the townhouse. The sound was so loud that even the horse panicked and neighed. Chiesa froze while Hada excitedly watched the scene unfold before him. Seeing the house engulfed in flames, Chiesa realized with horror, it's a firebomb. At this moment, Benzian tossed the detonator aside and spoke, it'll be hard for him to trace it back to me by tomorrow. He'll be busy cleaning up this mess. Hearing this, Kiasa's jaw dropped. She thought, can a person really change this much? Chiesa was amazed by his madness. Well, he is a Basilian after all. At the same time, in another location, a massacre was taking place. A blood-soaked sword accompanied by a sigh. Kian brushed his hair back and said, it truly never ends. Zahn appeared beside him and reported, "Master, judging by the assassins that have been coming all day." Qian interrupted, "Indeed, it seems my close associates have sold me out." He thought darkly, "Just who is it?" Suddenly, a subordinate rushed in and shouted, "Master, urgent report. The Western Mansion is on fire." Fortunately, all the servants have evacuated the area, and there are no casualties. However, the explosion caused a massive fire. Hearing this, a surge of magical power enveloped Qian. He called out in a low voice, "Zahn, take the twins back." Zahn bowed his head in acknowledgement. "Yes, sir." In an instant, Qian teleported to the townhouse. Before him was a sea of flames. Qian analyzed the situation. "There are too many onlookers. I can't resolve this with dark magic. Even if the fire is extinguished, I'll have to go through the entire mansion to deal with the aftermath, which will be very time-consuming. The fire and the assassins, someone who can keep me occupied so cleverly like this." Thinking up to this point, he had his answer. It's Benzian. Therefore, Qian turned around and asked, "Where's Chiesa?" The nearby servant stammered, "Count, I haven't seen the young miss since earlier." Qian turned and said, "Pray I'm not too angry when I find her." The servant, frightened, replied, Count." With that cry, Qian decided to advance towards the flames. He walked through the fire and kicked open the door to Chiasa's room. The room was empty. A strange smile spread across Qian's face. Magical power surged around him, and Qian seemed to go mad. "Where are you, my daughter?" The next afternoon, near the capital square, in a room, Benzian gently announced, "I've hired children who look similar to us, put them in a carriage, and sent them out of the capital. If it's the Count, he'll quickly go after them, so we won't leave the capital, but stay right in the center. Tonight, we'll stay at this inn and start moving early tomorrow morning." Chiesa, hearing his plan, replied, "Yes, I understand, young master." Benzian immediately corrected her. "Call me brother. We don't have to be blood-related siblings to use that term. Just call me that, it's fine." Hearing this, Chiesa obediently complied. "Yes, brother." That evening, after finishing their meal, she said, "I'm full." Lying down on the bed, Chiesa thought, "Phew, I'm so full. This life on the run isn't as bad as I thought. Being in a child's body, I don't have much energy. It's because Benzian is taking care of me that I feel this comfortable. I'm always working, and this is the first time I've seen Benzian wielding a sword. He's so skilled at handling it. It seems his skills are quite good. Thinking about it, Qian's sword is quite special." Chiesa sat up and wondered, because he's from the Basilian family, is the sword also specially made? Seeing her curiosity, Benzian explained, "This is a cursed sword made by the heir to the title of Count Basilian." She repeated, "A cursed sword?" He nodded, "Yes. To eliminate the monsters living in the Black Forest. The Black Forest within the Basilian territory that covers the entire eastern continent. Although there are rumors of terrifying creatures existing within the forest, contrary to the will of God, hardly anyone dares to go there. So these stories are treated as scary legends. But the monsters living inside the Black Forest are a truth known to very few. Creatures resembling beasts. Humans and mythical beings are now almost extinct. The Holy Kingdom of Hinder calls those monsters cursed creatures. Living in the Serpent's Fortress, located within the Black Forest, and managing the cursed creatures is a long-standing duty of the Basilian Count family." Suddenly, Benzian exclaimed, "It takes a lot of blood to create a cursed sword. The sword drinks the owner's blood for 100 days, the blood of other creatures prepared by servants for 100 days, and the blood of the cursed creatures living in the Black Forest for another 100 days. After feeding the sword blood for 300 days, finally, you stick it into the ground inside the Black Forest and leave it there for another 10 days. The blade will change color and become a cursed sword." He gently cleaned the sword and said, "Creating and possessing a cursed sword means bearing the responsibility of eradicating the monsters living there. Because it constantly causes countless deaths, accepting that duty is no different from a curse cast upon the Basilian family." Seeing his sad expression and hearing his words, Chiesa thought, "So there's such a story behind it." A few seconds later, Benzian sheathed his sword and said, "But don't worry about it. Later on, you'll be grateful to have escaped Basilian." Chiesa didn't feel that way. "Later on, I probably won't think anything special of it." A moment later, Benzian spoke up, "I've talked too much. We're leaving early tomorrow. Let's go to sleep." She replied, "Yes." The two siblings lay together on the bed. Benzian patted her gently, as if to lull her to sleep. Looking at Chiasa's current appearance, he quietly assessed. Is it because she's still young? She falls asleep quickly. Benzian gazed at her for a long while. He murmured, "Small, but I can still hear it. I wish you were my little sister." Basilian family mansion, Chiasa's room. Qian sits lost in thought, his eyes downcast. He remembers the figure lying on the bed. His hand reaches out, whispering, Rose. Kian tries to touch her. The figure slowly disappears, and his hand clenches. His eyes darken, but he says nothing. Memories suddenly flood back. Kian grips the arms of the chair. He thinks to himself, disappearing without a word, that's what I hate the most. I have to go see Master. It's been a while. Duke Syria, Froni Braille, one of the most powerful mages on the continent, and one of the 3 great nobles of the great empire. Of Panline, she is exceptionally tall, with a physique more robust than a man's, possessing a uniquely deep and captivating voice. Aware of her allure, which draws admiration from the upper class, she readily hosts and attends balls and banquets. Thanks to her magical cultivation, her aging has stopped, granting her a youthful appearance, vast experience, and immense power. But even someone like her has someone she fears. Syria glances around, wondering, am I hallucinating? Kian appears, smiling. Your Grace, he says. Seeing him, Syria jumps and yells, it's not a hallucination. You demon, get out. Kian dodges a thrown cup. It's been a while, and you greet me like this? How disappointing. Syria, panting, asks, what is it? You didn't barge in here to tell me to put out a fire, did you? Kian pauses for a moment, then says, I've lost my youngest daughter. Please help me. Kian kneels on one knee before her and says, Master. This leaves Syria speechless in surprise. She recalls Kian calling her Master in the past. Syria sighs, thinking to herself, it's been a while, and he comes to me for help like this, even using the same way of addressing me as back then. It's hard to refuse. Pointing at him, Syria says, you cunning snake. Fine, I'll help. In return, give me your 3rd child. Kian asks, are you talking about Aijuan? Syria replies, I told you before, that boy has magical talent. A gem like that needs to be polished to shine brightly. Kian stands up, I also told you. He doesn't want it yet. If he wants to learn, I'll send him to you immediately. Syria pouts and sighs. Talented kids are so troublesome. Such a waste to let that talent rot. So, the missing daughter is the child you adopted? Kian replies, yes, that's right. You know, the house burned down, so I had to stay and deal with it. I couldn't go anywhere. Of course, I was going to send someone to look for her, but wouldn't it be easier if Master used magic to help? Syria sighs, seeing no other option. I understand the situation. Kian's use of black magic is a secret. If he uses large-scale black magic like tracking, the heretical Inquisition will definitely catch him. Syria takes out a magic bottle. Did you bring any of your daughter's hair? Tracking magic requires blood or a part of the target's body. Kian pulls out a knife. No, I'll use my blood. Syria immediately refuses, but she's adopted. What good is your blood? Kian replied with a laugh. The youngest is with my eldest son. Syria frowned. Oh, she ran away? It's because you can't control your temper that the children ran away, isn't it? Well, all right, let's deal with this quickly so I can send you away. Meanwhile, Benzian and Cheza were sound asleep. A surge of magic suddenly flashed. Cheza immediately noticed and opened her eyes wide. She called out, wake up, huh? Hada also saw it and exclaimed in surprise, Lady Lin Chija. Above them, Cheza looked at the ceiling and replied, I know. Looking at the magic circle, she thought to herself that a tracking spell formation like this, it's clearly tracking magic. But judging by the pure energy or the color of the magic, this is absolutely not Kian's magic. Someone who can use such refined tracking magic. As far as I know, there's only one person on the continent. It's Duke Ibriel. The magical flow intensified, and Cheza quickly stood up. Cheza frowned, thinking, not Kian, but Duke Ibriel is using tracking magic on me. Why? Come to think of it, Basilian's debut in high society was at the Duke's banquet. Do they know each other? I can't be caught like this. If I use similar magic, I can't be a match for the great mage Ibriel. In that case, I'll use the power of the elves. Let's see, the magic formation is in the process of being cast. If I can block it, Cheza smiled. It's worth a try. Cheza took out a flower petal. Looking at Benzian, she thought, with the sleeping flower, even if it's noisy around him, he'll still sleep soundly. Although the opponent is formidable, she's never faced elven power because elves are on the verge of extinction. Even if they encounter each other, they would use elven power to escape because elves avoid confrontation. But I'm different from other elves. I'm not afraid to attack. If I can break this formation, I'll shatter it and escape. Cheza strained, pulling out a magic staff larger than herself. The head of the staff crashed onto the floor. Cheza frowned and smiled confidently. Let's give the Duke a taste of elven power, shall we? Thank you for watching today's video. Our story continues with many exciting developments ahead, so don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to support us and not miss the latest episodes. We wish you relaxing and enjoyable moments. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.